Hey guys, tonight we're journeying into the deep sea, descending layer by layer, to find out why one of the planet's most familiar creatures gets stranger and more terrifying the further down you go. Imagine, we are 10,000 feet below the surface. The pressure here is 4,400 pounds per square inch, enough to crush a military submarine. Around us, there is only absolute black and a perfect freezing silence. And in that darkness, something drifts past. It's not a fish, not a squid. It's a mouth. A mouth with a body attached as an afterthought. But this creature, this living net, didn't start this way. Its ancestors swam in sunlit reefs, looking just like the eels you know. Over millennia, as they ventured down, they were stripped down, piece by piece, by the darkness and the pressure. They lost their color, then their eyes, then their very faces, until only this living net remained. So what is this force that disassembles a creature? Why does the deep sea hate normal bodies? And how did one of the most common fish on Earth hide its creepy secrets for so long? Thanks to a new generation of deep-sea submersibles, tonight we will venture into these depths together to find the answers. Frankly, if you were dropped here without a submersible, you wouldn't survive a single second to realize where you went wrong. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. That small click sends a big signal to the algorithm. That long-form, serious educational content still matters. And to me, it's an incredibly meaningful show of support. Thank you so much for helping keep this channel going strong. It always fascinates me to see where you're all tuning in from. Let me know in the comments where you are in the world and what time it is for you. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You are now floating, but not in the deep. Not yet. Instead, you are drifting in the warm, moonlit waters of the Sargasso Sea, a strange, calm place in the middle of the Atlantic. And you are surrounded by a mystery. Not a new one, but one that has haunted us for thousands of years. The eel question. It's a simple question that has driven naturalists to madness. Where do eels come from? For us, it seems simple. They're fish. Fish lay eggs. But for the greatest mind in the ancient world, it was an infuriating puzzle. You are now in ancient Greece, watching the philosopher Aristotle, our mainstream historical fact for this section. He's on the island of Lesbos, knee-deep in a lagoon, running his hands through the silt. He has dissected hundreds of eels. He has searched every single one for milt or roe, sperm or eggs, and has found nothing. No reproductive organs. No one anywhere in Greece has ever seen an eel mating. No one has ever found a baby eel. It's a biological impossibility. A creature that is common, sold in every market, eaten for dinner, has no parents. Aristotle, a man who built his entire philosophy on direct observation, is stumped. So he makes the only logical leap he can. He concludes that eels are not born. They are generated. They must be, he writes, the entrails of the earth. They are born spontaneously from the mud. That is the only answer his evidence will allow. And because Aristotle was, well, Aristotle, this idea holds. For over 2,000 years, you drift forward in time. You are in Rome, listening to Pliny the Elder. He has a different theory. He proposes that when eels want to reproduce, they find a nice rough rock and just rub against it. The fragments of skin that flake off are then animated by life and become new tiny eels. This is, of course, just as wrong, but it feels slightly more biological. The mystery deepens. The centuries pass. The scientific revolution dawns. We discover cells. We map the solar system. But we still don't know where eels come from. Historians still argue whether any single biological question has caused so much prolonged confusion. It became a joke, a metaphor for the unknowable. Now, you are in 1876, in a lab in Trieste, Italy. You are looking over the shoulder of a frustrated 19-year-old medical student. He's been given a single, humiliating task by his professor. Find the testes of the male eel. His name is Sigmund Freud. This is our quirky tidbit. Before he was Freud, before he delved into the human mind, his first ever scientific quest was a grueling, maddening hunt for the eel's reproductive organs. He is on his 400th eel. He cuts and slices, his eyes straining through the microscope, searching for the elusive, tiny ribbon-like structure that is rumored to be the male gonad. He is finding nothing. All the eels I have cut open are of the gentler sex. He writes, exasperated. He never solves the puzzle. He fails utterly, and soon after abandons zoology for neurology, and eventually for psychoanalysis. One can only wonder what effect all those missing fathers and hidden organs had on his later theories. The problem, you see, is that everyone was looking in the wrong place. They were dissecting eels from rivers and ponds. But those eels are just children. They are sterile. They are living in their freshwater childhood home, a phase that can last for 20 or 30 years. Their real lives, their origins, and their endings happen somewhere else entirely. The reason no one could find a baby eel is that we were looking for the wrong thing. We were searching for a miniature eel, a tiny, wriggling version of the adult. But that's not what an eel baby looks like. What we were missing was a creature so alien, so bizarre, that when we did find it, we classified it as a completely different species of fish for almost 100 years. The truth was far stranger than mud or magic rocks. The truth was waiting out here, in the middle of the ocean, in this vast, floating sea of weed. This place, the Sargasso Sea, is the only sea on Earth with no land borders. It's a phantom country. It isn't defined by coastlines, but by the slow, warm, clockwise spin of the Atlantic's currents. It's a 2 million square mile gyre, an ocean within an ocean, and its defining feature is floating right in front of you. Sargassum. It's a golden brown seaweed held afloat by tiny berry-like air bladders, and it forms massive floating mats. Some are the size of a car, others are floating islands miles wide. You drift over one. It's not just weed, it's a world. It's a floating sun-drenched rainforest. Tiny camouflaged sargassum fish, looking exactly like the weed. Hunt shrimp that are also camouflaged to look like the weed. You see baby sea turtles, no bigger than your hand, using the mats as a protective nursery, a safe haven buffet before they're large enough to brave the open ocean. But this place has a darker side. It's an ocean of eerie stillness. The center of this spinning gyre is a region famous for its lack of wind and current. This is the doldrums. For centuries, this was a place of terror for sailors. A mainstream historical fact is that ships relying on wind could become utterly becalmed here, trapped for weeks or even months in the calm, hot water, surrounded by the endless creeping weed. Their supplies would run low, their water would turn foul, and madness would set in. This stillness, combined with the way the gyre collected wreckage, gave the Sargasso Sea a terrifying reputation as the graveyard of ships, a place where ghost ships and sea monsters were said to lurk in the weeds. This, our quirky tidbit, made it a perfect place to hide a secret. The Eel's secret. This is the place. This is the cradle. The man who proved it was a Danish biologist named Johannes Schmidt, and his story is one of the most stubborn, obsessive quests in the history of science. You are with him now on the deck of his research vessel, Dana, in 1904. He has a simple, radical hypothesis. Eels are not born in rivers. They are born somewhere in the vast, empty Atlantic. And he is going to find that somewhere. His method is simple, but unimaginably grueling. He begins towing fine-meshed plankton nets behind his ship. Hour after hour, day after day, for years. And he starts to find them, the babies. He finds them in the currents off the coast of Europe. They are small, but not that small. He sails further west into the Atlantic and tows his nets again. He finds more, and they are smaller. He realizes he's on a trail. He is like a detective, as our outline said, following a set of footprints that are getting smaller and smaller, leading him back to the scene of the crime. This is his life for 18 years. He crosses the Atlantic over and over, crisscrossing 40,000 miles of ocean, funded by the Danish government and, oddly, the Carlsberg Beer Company. He is mapping the baby eel population of an entire ocean. This is our scientific evidence. A biological survey so vast it has scarcely been equaled. Finally, in 1922, the trail ends. The footprints have become their smallest, their most newborn. He has found the source. He is right here, where you are floating now. The Sargasso Sea. He proves that every single European and North American eel, from every river, every pond, every muddy ditch, from Norway to Egypt to the Mississippi, all of them began their lives here. They are all drawn, by some force we still don't understand, to this one patch of weedy ocean. They swim thousands of miles, stop eating, and in this warm, still water, they perform their final act. They spawn, and they die. And the biggest mystery? The why. Scientists still argue about it. Is this their ancient ancestral spawning ground? A memory of where the Atlantic Ocean was much smaller 100 million years ago? Are the currents and the sargassum mats simply perfect for protecting and dispersing their bizarre, delicate larvae? We still don't know, because in all the decades since Schmidt, no human has ever, not once, witnessed an adult eel spawning in the wild. We've never seen the final act. They just arrive, and then they vanish. They deliver their ghosts and are consumed by the sea. So, the baby that Johannes Schmidt was tracking wasn't a baby eel at all. It was this thing. You dip your hand into the warm Sargasso water and pull one out. It's not a fish. It's a living, flexible sliver of glass. It's a leaf. A willow leaf, maybe. But it's alive. It's perfectly transparent, and you can see the faint, thread-like gut and the simple, pulsing tube that serves as its heart. This is the Leptocephalus. For decades, this was our mainstream historical fact. This creature was not an eel. It was classified in the 18th century as a completely separate species of fish, Leptocephalus brevirostris. which literally means slender head, short snout. It was its own entire mysterious branch of life. Scientists found them all over the ocean, these little glass leaves, but had no idea what they were. They had no parents, just like the eels. It was two separate, impossible mysteries. And the solution, the connection, was finally made by an Italian biologist named Battista Grassi, who was studying plankton in the Strait of Messina. He was lucky. He had one of these leptocephalus larvae in his tank. And he just watched it. He watched it day after day until it began to change. He saw this impossible leaf-like creature begin to shrink, to warp, to collapse on itself, transforming not into an adult, slender head, but into a juvenile eel. He solved both mysteries at once. The creature that wasn't an eel was the eel. This is the first true layer of creepiness. Every eel you have ever seen, from the giant, muscular conger to the colorful moray, begins its life as this transparent, bloodless, alien plankton. You look closer at the one in your hand. This is our scientific evidence. Its body isn't flesh, not really. It's a gelatinous matrix, a mucopolysaccharide jelly that gives it shape. This makes it almost 100% water, allowing it to be neutrally buoyant without a heavy swim bladder, and making it completely invisible to predators. It has no scales. It has no red blood cells. Its blood is as clear as the water around it. It diffuses oxygen directly from the sea, like a jellyfish. It's an impossibly delicate, passive thing. But then you look at its slender head. It is indeed tiny, but it is armed. The mouth of this peaceful, drifting leaf is filled with sharp, needle-like, outward-pointing fangs. Fangs on a creature that is otherwise a helpless piece of jelly. Scholars still debate what these fangs are for. The leading theory is that they aren't for biting at all, but for snagging. Because what does this thing eat? For a century we had no idea. Its gut was always empty. We just recently discovered the truth. It eats marine snow. This is our quirky tidbit. You are now drifting with it, and you can see this snow. It's not snow. It's a constant, slow, beautiful, and disgusting rain of detritus from the sunlit world far above. It's the husks of dead plankton, the fecal pellets of tiny crustaceans, fish scales, dust, pollen, mucus, a never-ending gentle blizzard of organic garbage. This is the manna of the deep. The leptocephalus, with its fanged, drifting mouth, just intersects with this snow. It snags these microscopic particles, these muco-aggregates, and absorbs them. It is eating the ocean's ghosts, and this is its life. For 1, 2, maybe 3 years. It doesn't swim. It drifts. It is pure, passive potential. It is carried from the Sargasso Sea by the powerful, warm current of the Gulf Stream, a massive, invisible river in the ocean that flows towards Europe. Think about that journey. A 3-year-long infancy as a transparent leaf, drifting 4,000 miles across an entire ocean, eating nothing but the dust of dead things. It is a creature from a fairy tale. It's a biological riddle that floats on the edge of what we even consider a fish. It is an alien, and it is the key. This is the blueprint. This gelatinous, minimalist, bizarre body plan is not an accident. It's a preview. The deep sea, as we will see, loves this design. The transparent, jelly-like, low-energy body is the perfect starting point for building a monster. The leptocephalus isn't just the eel's baby. It's the first hint of its final, terrifying form. After 3 years of drifting, your journey as a transparent, leafy ghost is finally ending. You are no longer in the deep, salty blue water of the open Atlantic. You are approaching a continent. You can sense the change. The water is becoming less salty, clouded with silt. You are at the mouth of a great river, a coastal estuary where the fresh water of the land spills out to meet the sea. And this new, colder, muddier water triggers something. A new, violent change is coming. This isn't growth, it's a collapse. It's a metamorphosis so extreme it makes a caterpillar's transformation look like a simple costume change. You, the delicate leaf-shaped leptocephalus, are about to be completely deconstructed and rebuilt, all while still swimming. You watch as your own body begins to betray its leaf-like shape. The gelatinous matrix, the jelly, that made up 90% of your body mass is being consumed by your own cells. It's an act of autophagy, self-digestion. Your body shrinks. You lose mass, you lose water, you lose that ethereal, flattened shape. You are condensing. Your head, which was a tiny, needle-like thing, begins to swell and thicken. Your gut, once a simple, straight tube, begins to coil and expand, preparing itself for a new, solid food diet. And most importantly, deep within your shrinking, translucent frame, something new appears. This is our scientific evidence. For the first time, your body is producing hemoglobin. Your blood, which for 3 years was as clear and empty as the water around you, is now turning red. It's becoming thick, complex, and efficient. You are building the machinery to carry oxygen, to fuel muscles, to become a predator. This is the biological miracle we're here to see. It's like a butterfly, as the outline noted, but in reverse. You are going from a delicate, floating, ethereal wing and collapsing yourself into a dense, muscular, crawling caterpillar. You have shed your planktonic, ghost-like form to become a true, grounded, bottom-dwelling animal. When the transformation is complete, you are no longer a leptocephalus. You are a glass eel. You look down at your new body. It is, for now, still perfectly transparent. You can see your brand new red blood pumping through your new arteries. You can see your new coiled gut and your flexible, strengthening spine. You are at last recognizably an eel. You are just an invisible one. And you are not alone. You are in a swarm. All around you, by the millions, are other glass eels, all arriving from the Sargasso Sea at the same time, all having undergone the same violent, transformative collapse. You are part of a mainstream historical fact, a living tide. This is what observers see. A massive, writhing, silver-black wave of tiny, invisible bodies pushing against the current, driven by an ancient, unstoppable instinct to move upriver. This swarm, this eel fair, was once so dense it could clog the intakes of riverside factories. But now, this living tide is in trouble. And that brings us to our quirky tidbit. This swarm of tiny, invisible eels is one of the most valuable and most trafficked wildlife products on the planet. In certain markets, particularly in Asia, glass eels are considered a delicacy and essential for aquaculture. A single pound of these tiny 2-inch-long creatures can be worth more than a pound of gold. This has led to a massive global black market, with eel poaching rings smuggling them in suitcases, hidden in cargo, a tragic and bizarre side effect of this creature's mysterious life. But as you swarm, as you feel the pull of the fresh water, the biggest question of all still remains. How did you get here? How does a creature, a mindless, transparent leaf that drifted passively for 3 years and 4,000 miles, find its way back to the exact river system its parents left? How does it, after being tossed by storms and currents, know to turn left at the coast of Europe or right towards the rivers of North America? Scholars are still in a heated debate over this. The leading theory is the one that touches on magic. They feel the earth. The leading hypothesis is that eels possess an incredibly sensitive magnetoreception. They have microscopic crystals of magnetite in their brains that allow them to use the Earth's magnetic field as a map and a compass. They are not just drifting, they are navigating, sensing the tiny, subtle changes in the magnetic inclination and intensity of the planet, guiding their 3-year-long passive journey. It's the only theory that explains how they find their way. They are born with an innate, planetary map, guiding them from their mysterious birthplace back to their ancestral homes. And now, that map has led you here, to the mouth of the river, ready to begin your third life. As you push upriver, your body undergoes its next, slower transformation. The glass is staining. You are no longer transparent. Your skin is thickening, producing melanin. You are becoming a mottled, brownish yellow, the perfect camouflage for the muddy bottoms and tangled roots of this new, freshwater world. You are now an elver, a juvenile eel, and you are entering the third and longest phase of your life. This is the yellow eel stage, the one that can last for 20, 30, even 50 years. This is the creature Aristotle and Freud were hunting. This is the normal eel, the one that lives in our ponds, our lakes, our rivers. And yet, it is anything but normal. It is a creature of impossible patience and baffling physiology. It is a saltwater fish, born in the mid-Atlantic, that now lives its entire life in freshwater, thousands of miles from its home. It is essentially an alien in a borrowed home. And to survive here, it has a set of bizarre, almost supernatural abilities. You are a young eel living in a small pond. A drought comes. The water level drops. The pond becomes stagnant, low on oxygen, and overcrowded. For any other fish, this is a death sentence. For you, it's an inconvenience. You simply leave. You wriggle up the muddy bank, and you begin to crawl. This is our scientific evidence. The eel can breathe air. It doesn't have lungs, but it can absorb oxygen directly through its skin as long as it stays moist. This ability allows it to do something no other fish can: travel overland. You are wriggling in the dead of night, through wet grass, your powerful muscular body moving like a snake as you leave your dying pond and search for a new one. This is the source of our quirky tidbit: the eel in a field myth. For centuries, farmers would wake up after a damp, rainy night to find eels in their flooded fields, miles from the nearest river. It was inexplicable, a sign of a bad omen or a magical event. But it was just the eel, on its nightly commute, doing something that should be impossible. And what helps it on this journey is its other famous attribute: its slime. Your entire body is coated in a thick, clear, glycoprotein-based mucus. This slime layer is a biological marvel. It's what makes the eel slippery, a perfect defense mechanism. It's almost impossible to get a grip on you. If a heron snags you, you can simply slime your way out of its beak. This mucus also protects you from parasites and infections in the muddy water. And crucially, it's what keeps your skin moist, allowing you to breathe on your long overland treks. You are a self-lubricating, air-breathing, cross-country fish. Historians still debate the exact economic impact of this creature, but it was profound. This brings us to our mainstream historical fact. In medieval England, the eel was not just food, it was currency. It was so common, so plentiful, and so easy to catch with eel traps that it became a standard form of payment. The Domesday Book of 1086, the Great Survey of England, records thousands of tenants paying their rent not in coin, but in eels. Rents were paid in sticks of eels, which was a bundle of 25. One abbey was owed 26,000 eels per year. This was the economic backbone of the wetlands. So you live this life for decades. You hunt, you hide, you wait. You are a patient, slimy, crawling enigma in a muddy pond. Then, one day, when you are 40 years old, something changes. A hormonal switch, pulled by a force we don't understand. Maybe the phase of the moon, maybe a change in the water, goes off. You begin your final metamorphosis. Your muddy yellow-brown skin turns a sleek, metallic silver, with a dark back and a white belly. Perfect camouflage for the open ocean. Your digestive system, your gut, begins to break down and dissolve. You will never eat again. All of your body's resources are now being diverted to one final purpose. Your tiny eyes, the ones you used for the mud, enlarge. The pupils widening, the retinas becoming more sensitive, preparing themselves for the darkness of the deep ocean. You are becoming a silver eel, and you feel a pull. It's the same ancient instinct that brought you here as a glass baby. It's the call of the Sargasso Sea. You turn your new, powerful body around, and you begin your journey home. You swim out of your pond, down the river, and back into the Atlantic. A 4,000-mile journey, running on nothing but your own stored fat, to that one special, weedy patch of ocean, to finally answer the question that haunted Freud. You are going home to breed and to die. This is the normal eel, a creature that lives 4 lives in one, a master of transformation, a freshwater alien. And it's only our baseline. From here, the journey only gets stranger. We are leaving the world of fresh water and sunlight, and we're going down. We leave the silver eel to its final one-way journey. Its story, a perfect bizarre circle, is complete. But the eel family is vast, and its members have not all chosen this freshwater path. We are now leaving the rivers and coasts and beginning our real journey, a vertical descent into the great, dark, open ocean. Our purpose is to see what happens when the eel's versatile, ancient body plan is put under real pressure. Our journey begins, however, in the light. You are floating in the warm, clear, turquoise water of a tropical reef. This is the epipelagic zone, the sunlight zone. It's the top 200 meters, or 650 feet, of the ocean. It's the only layer that receives enough light for photosynthesis. It's a world of vibrant color, complex coral structures, and frantic, visible life. This is the world of the pretty eels. You see one now, peeking out from a hole in the coral. This is the snowflake eel, the Echidna nebulosa, the one from the video's introduction. As the video rightly pointed out, It's the opposite of creepy. It's beautiful. Its body is a bright, milky white, covered in a complex, leopard-like pattern of black and yellow spots. This is classic camouflage, as the video stated. It's designed to break up the eel's outline, to make it blend in perfectly with the dappled light and complex shadows of the coral reef. Nearby, you see its more famous and more imposing cousin, the Moray Eel. It's a classic reef dweller, a muscular serpentine giant, its head constantly weaving back and forth from its rocky lair. Its mouth is open, not in a threat, but just to breathe, pumping water over its gills. This creature has a long, dark relationship with humanity. This brings us to our mainstream historical fact. In ancient Rome, wealthy patricians prized moray eels as decadent, exotic pets. They were kept in special piscina, or ponds, and were said to be so tame they would swim to their master's hands to be fed. But there's a darker, more famous story. A Roman named Vedius Pollio, a friend of the Emperor Augustus, was infamous for his cruelty. The rumor, which persists to this day, was that he kept a pond of giant morays, and when a slave broke a glass or displeased him, he would have them fed, alive, to his pets. Historians still debate whether this is a grotesque exaggeration or a literal truth, but it speaks to the fearsome, monstrous reputation these pretty eels already had. But now you see the moray hunt. A small fish, a damselfish, strays too close to its hole. In a blur of muscle, the moray lunges. It's an incredibly fast, powerful strike. It seizes the fish in its backward-curving, needle-sharp teeth. And now, the eel has a problem. It's a serious biomechanical problem. Its head is incredibly narrow, built to live in tight, rocky crevices. It has no room for the big, open-mouthed, gulping muscles that other fish use to create suction and swallow their prey. It can't swallow. It has the fish in its jaws. The fish is thrashing, but it's stuck. It can't pull the fish in. You're watching this struggle, and you're thinking, how does it ever eat? And then you see it. From the back of the eel's throat, from the darkness of its esophagus, something else emerges. It's a second, smaller, and even more terrifying set of jaws, all bone and teeth. It rockets forward into the back of the eel's mouth, grabs the struggling fish, and pulls it with violent force back down into the gullet. This is our quirky tidbit, and the moray's creepy secret. It's the scientific evidence we'll explore next. The normal surface eel, our baseline for this journey, is already a monster. It is a creature straight out of a science fiction nightmare. It has two sets of jaws, one to capture, and a second, alien, one to pull the prey, screaming, into its throat. This is the moray's darkest secret, its creepy innovation that makes it one of the most efficient predators on the reef. It's not just an eel, it's a living Trojan horse. What you just witnessed is a biological feature so alien that it was, for a long time, thought to be impossible. It's called the pharyngeal jaw. Let's break down what you just saw. This is our scientific evidence. Most fish, when they eat, use a single set of jaws. They open their mouths wide, creating a sudden, powerful suction that inhales both water and their prey. The prey is then passed to a set of simple, fixed throat teeth that grind it up or push it down. But the moray, as we saw, lives in a narrow, rocky tunnel. It can't open its head wide enough to create that suction. It's a predator without the ability to swallow. So, evolution gave it a second monstrous solution. Deep in its throat, Where other fish have a simple grinding plate, the Moray Eel has an entire second skull. It's a second set of alien jaws, complete with its own sharp, backward-pointing teeth, and it sits on its own movable, muscular sling. When the moray strikes, it's a two-stage attack. Stage 1. The main jaws, the ones you can see, lunge and bite. They are pure and simple grappling hooks, holding the prey, preventing its escape. Stage 2. The moment that bite is secure, the pharyngeal jaw, which has been resting back in the eel's throat, is launched. It rockets forward, powered by a complex system of specialized muscles traveling the entire length of the eel's skull in a fraction of a second. It emerges from the darkness of the throat, seizes the prey from the main jaws, and then violently retracts, pulling the food down into the esophagus. It is, in effect, a creature with a mouth inside its mouth, and that inner mouth acts like a grasping, living harpoon. This brings us to our quirky tidbit. The Moray Eel is the only animal on Earth that we know of that uses a second set of jaws to actively capture and transport prey in this way. Other fish have pharyngeal jaws, but they are stationary grinders. The morays are a mobile, projectile weapon. It's a unique, evolutionary masterpiece. The discovery of this, confirmed with high-speed X-ray videography, sent a shock through the world of biology. It was proof of a biological mechanism that, until then, was pure science fiction, most famously seen in the xenomorph from the movie Alien. The nightmare was real, and it was living in a coral reef. This entire complex two-jaw system is a perfect adaptation for a life of ambush in tight spaces. It solves the narrow head problem with brutal efficiency. Scholars, of course, still debate how this bizarre mechanism evolved. The leading theory is that it started as a simple set of grinding throat teeth, just like in any other fish. But over millions of years, the muscles that controlled them became more and more specialized. The bones became more mobile until one lineage of eels crossed a threshold. The jaws became unanchored, and the system for grinding became a system for launching. It was a radical leap, a hyper-specialization that turned the moray into one of the reef's apex predators. So, let's pause here, at the sunlit surface, and take stock. Our baseline eel, the normal creature we are using as our starting point, is a shape-shifting, continent-crossing, air-breathing, slime-covered, two-jawed alien. The creepiness, it turns out, was baked in from the very beginning. The eel's body plan isn't normal at all. It's a collection of bizarre, highly adaptable, and slightly terrifying survival tools. This is the creature that is now, in other parts of its family tree, about to venture down. It's taking this already weird toolkit and descending into a world that will push it to its absolute limits. A world that will strip away its pretty camouflaged colors and warp its body into even stranger forms. You are at 200 meters. The light is bright. But now, we are going to sink. The vibrant, sunlit reef, with its two-jawed alien predators, fades to a tiny, bright patch of light far above you. You are descending. You sink past the 650-foot mark, about 200 meters down. You have just left the epipelagic zone, the sunlight zone, and you are now entering the mesopelagic. This is the twilight zone. The name is perfect, and the change is immediate. The first thing you lose is the warmth. The tropical bath-like water of the reef is gone, replaced by a deep, penetrating, and permanent cold. The second thing you lose is color. You are watching the world be unpainted. The first wavelengths of light to be absorbed by water are the long, weak ones. The reds, the oranges, the yellows. Down here, those colors no longer exist. If you were to cut your hand, your blood would not be red. It would be a shocking, oily black. The world around you is not dark. Not yet. It is a deep, eternal, and perfectly uniform blue. It is the only color that has the energy to punch this deep into the ocean. And with the cold and the blue comes the pressure. You can feel it now, a heavy, tangible presence. You are at 20 atmospheres. That is 20 times the air pressure you are used to, pressing in on every inch of your body. The weight of the water above you is no longer a concept. It's a physical force, a constant crushing embrace. You are no longer swimming in water, you are sinking into a heavy, dense, liquid world. You look up, trying to find the sun, the surface. It's gone. The world above is no longer a sky. It's just a distant, shimmering ceiling that you can no longer see. All that remains of the daylight you knew is a faint, silvery, shimmering rain of photons, the very last, weakest rays of light, filtering down from a world you can no longer reach. This is an environment defined by shadows. The rules of the reef, of hiding in a rocky crevice, are gone. There are no rocks here. There is no bottom. There is only open, empty, endless blue-gray water. And this open water creates two new, terrifying evolutionary drivers. First, how to see in this dim, monochrome light. And second, how to hide from things that are looking up at you from below. This is the great defining terror of the Twilight Zone, your own silhouette. Imagine you are a small fish, drifting here, trying to find food. Far below you, in the darker water, a predator is looking up. All it has to do is scan the ceiling for a dark, fish-shaped patch, a hole in the silvery rain of light. It's the easiest target in the world. You are a sitting duck, perfectly outlined against the sky. So how do you hide when there is nowhere to hide? The answer is pure science fiction. You must erase your own shadow. This is the realm of counter-illumination, our scientific evidence for this world. You see a small fish flicker past, a lantern fish. You look at it, and it's a small, silvery thing. But you look at its belly, and it is glowing. It's covered in dozens of tiny, precise, light-producing organs called photophores. It's not glowing to be seen. It's glowing to disappear. This creature is performing an incredible, active calculation. It is sensing the exact color and the exact intensity of the faint blue light filtering down from above. And it is matching it perfectly with the light it projects from its own stomach. It shines down, filling in its own shadow. It becomes a ghost. It is a living, biological cloaking device. This world of glowing, shadow-eating creatures is so vast, so dense, that it creates a phenomenon that baffled the first humans to discover it. This is our mainstream historical fact. During World War II, naval ships were using a new technology, sonar, to hunt for enemy submarines. Day after day, their sonar operators would get a deeply confusing reading. It looked like a false bottom, a solid layer of something that would hover in the middle of the ocean, thousands of feet deep. Then, at dusk, this entire bottom would rise toward the surface. At dawn, it would sink back into the abyss. This was our quirky tidbit. The sonar operators were not pinging the sea floor. They were pinging life. They had discovered the deep scattering layer, DSL, a layer of trillions of lanternfish, squid, krill, and other mesopelagic creatures so unimaginably dense that it scatters sonar, making it look like a solid object. This is the largest migration of animal life on Earth, happening every 24 hours. These creatures hide in the dark depths during the day to avoid being a silhouette, and only at night, under the cover of total darkness, do they rise to the surface to feed. Even today, scientists still debate the exact composition, behavior, and total biomass of the DSL. It's a living, breathing, moving continent of life that we are only just beginning to understand. This is the new world our eels are now entering. A cold, high-pressure, blue-gray world of living shadows and false moving floors. But the eels, the anguilliforms, they don't have the lanternfish's trick. They haven't evolved those precise, glowing bellies. They need a different solution. The snowflake eel's pretty complex, colorful pattern is now worse than useless. It's a look-at-me sign. To survive here, the eel must begin its first great transformation. It must lose its patterns. It must lose its color. It must become a living shadow to hunt the other shadows. And so here, in this endless, cold, blue-gray twilight, you meet the first of the new eels. This is the conger eel, the one from the video. It has taken the first great step in this deconstruction. You see it glide past, a thick, muscular shadow in the dimness. And the first thing you notice is what it has lost. It has lost the beautiful, complex yellow and black spots of its cousin, the snowflake eel. It has lost the dappled, mottled pattern of the moray. It is now, as the video noted, a uniform, solid color, a deep, oily pitch black or a battleship gray. This is our scientific evidence. This is not a random choice. It is the new, essential camouflage. In an environment where the only light comes from above, and where there are no rocks or coral to hide behind, the only way to hide is to be a void. Color, any color, is a liability. It reflects light. To be black is to be an absence. It is the camouflage of nothingness, allowing the conger to blend in with the deeper, darker water below it as it hunts the silhouettes above. The second thing you notice is what it has gained. You look at its head as it passes. Its eyes. They are enormous. They are not the small, beady eyes of the river eel or the moray. They are huge, sensitive, goggle-like orbs. They are often a strange, iridescent greenish blue. These are biological light collectors, goggle eyes, designed with one purpose: to capture every last, pathetic, stray photon of that silvery blue light filtering down from the world above. Its retinas are packed with millions of hypersensitive rods, the cells that see in black and white. It has sacrificed the ability to see color for the ability to see movement, the faintest, most subtle flicker of a shadow in the dimness. And finally, you notice its size. This is not a small, slithering creature. This is a beast. As the video called them, these are thick fellas. The European conger can reach 10 feet long and weigh over 130 pounds. Some unverified reports from the 19th century claimed weights of over 300 pounds. This is an apex predator. It is a living shadow of pure, dense muscle. This combination of size, power, and its new ghoulish, pale-eyed appearance has given the conger a terrifying reputation. This is our mainstream historical fact. While most congers are shy, a cornered one is a notoriously ferocious fighter. In 1876, in the archives of deep-sea diving, there is a chilling report from a diver in Scotland. He was working in a classic, heavy, hard-hat diving bell, the kind with the big, brass helmet. He was on the seafloor when, from the murky water, a massive conger eel appeared. According to the report, the eel, perhaps territorial or confused by the strange, bubbling metal man, attacked. It wrapped its body around the diver's legs and tried to pull him from the bell, its powerful jaws snapping at the thick canvas suit. The diver, in a sheer panic, managed to signal his crew on the surface, and they began to haul the bell up, with the eel still attached. He was, in the end, saved with difficulty, the eel only releasing its grip as it was pulled from the water. This reputation for aggression, combined with its serpentine body, made it a creature of dark legends. This is our quirky tidbit. In the Channel Islands, the small islands between England and France, the conger eel was a creature of genuine supernatural dread. It was deeply associated with witchcraft and sea serpents. Local legends told of witches who could transform into giant congers to sink ships, or who would send eels to curse a neighbor's fishing nets. A conger curse was a genuine whispered fear, a piece of folklore born from the sheer, unsettling power of this real-life sea monster. And yet, this is the great puzzle of the conger, the scholarly debate that still continues. Is it a monster, or is it just shy? While fishermen and the historical record are filled with stories of its terrifying, thrashing aggression, especially when it's landed on the deck of a boat, modern-day scuba divers in the twilight zone report a completely different animal. Divers who seek out congers often find them to be incredibly placid, curious, and gentle, peeking their heads out from wrecks or crevices, and sometimes even learning to accept food from a diver's hand. This split personality, the ferocious conger curse beast versus the shy, curious diver's friend, is the enigma. Is the aggression just a cornered animal response? Or are these two different behaviors for two different situations? It's an eel of contradictions. It has abandoned its color to become a shadow, and it has swollen its eyes to feast on the last dying bits of the sun. It is a masterpiece of the in-between world. But now, we are leaving this in-between world. We are leaving the last of the light behind. We are sinking, past the blue, past the shadows, and into the true dark. The last, faint, silvery blue glow from the ceiling of the world is gone. You watch the final photon wink out. You are now sinking past 1,000 meters, over 3,300 feet. You have left the mesopelagic. You are now entering the bathyal zone. We call it the midnight zone. And this is not a poetic name. It is a literal description. There is no twilight here. There are no shadows. There are no silhouettes. There is no dimness. There is nothing. It is an absolute, permanent, and liquid black. A blackness so total and so old, it feels like a solid substance. It is the original darkness that existed before the stars. The cold is now a different kind of cold. It is no longer just cold. It is a constant. The water temperature here is a stable, unchanging 39 degrees Fahrenheit, or about 4 degrees Celsius, and it will stay that way for the next 10,000 feet. It is a cold that leaches all energy. And then there is the pressure. You are no longer just feeling it. It is you. You are at 100 atmospheres. That is over 1,500 pounds of pressure on every single square inch of your body. Imagine a full-sized grand piano balanced perfectly on one of your fingernails. That is the force. It is a pressure that would instantly crush a human, a submarine, a bone. It is a pressure that fundamentally changes the rules of chemistry and biology. And here, in this crushing, freezing, absolute black, you become aware of the single defining terror of this new world: the hunger. The marine snow that you saw in the upper layers, that rich, constant blizzard of food, fecal pellets, and dead plankton. It's gone. That blizzard has to fall 3,000 feet to get here, and on the way, it is ravaged. The creatures of the Twilight Zone, the DSL, the trillions of lanternfish and krill, they have eaten 90% of it. What drifts past you now is not a feast. It's the crumbs. It's the last, most picked over, nutritionally bankrupt garbage. Food is profoundly scarce. A single good meal, a dead fish, a small squid, might be the only food you encounter for a week or a month. In this zone, the rules of biology, the drivers of evolution, have changed. The game is no longer hide from the light or see the shadow. The new and only rules are: 1. How do you find any food at all in total blackness? 2. How do you conserve every last particle of energy until you do? And this is where the eel's previous adaptation, the great, beautiful goggle eye of the conger, becomes a failure. It is now worse than useless. It is a liability. Eyes are expensive. They are complex, delicate, hot organs, packed with nerves and blood vessels, all consuming precious calories and oxygen. They are a biological luxury, and in a world with zero photons, they are a luxury that costs everything and provides nothing. They are a giant, pointless energy suck. This is the great deconstruction. To survive here, the eel's body must be stripped for parts, and the first thing to go is sight. This entire world, the Bathyal Zone, was, for most of human history, a complete myth. This is our mainstream historical fact. For centuries, it was a fundamental belief in science, called the azoic hypothesis, that life could not exist below about 1,800 feet. It was believed the pressure was too great, the cold too extreme, and the darkness too absolute. Then, in the 1870s, the Challenger expedition, a British ship on the first ever global oceanographic survey, dropped its dredges and nets deeper. And it pulled up life. It pulled up creatures from 3,000, 5,000, even 10,000 feet down. It was a discovery that shattered biology. The monsters of the deep were real. The abyss was not dead. It was a new, unknown, and haunted world. This is our scientific evidence. The creatures that the Challenger pulled up, and the ones we study today, all share one trait: a low and slow lifestyle. This is the solution to rule number 2, conserving energy. The fish of the Midnight Zone have incredibly slow metabolisms. Their hearts beat slower. They move with a lazy, drifting grace. They live for incredibly long periods. A Greenland shark can live for 400 years. A rough-eye rockfish for 200. They are living, breathing examples of life in extreme power-saver mode. Of course, scholars still debate the exact cause of this. Is this slow, cold, long life a direct result of the freezing temperature and high pressure, which just physically slows down the chemical reactions of life? Or is it a separate, evolved adaptation to the scarcity of food? Is it physics, or is it evolution? The answer is likely both. A perfect vicious circle of cold and hunger, breeding creatures that live in a different, slower-moving time. And this world, once thought to be dead, is also not silent. This is our quirky tidbit. For a long time, the deep sea was assumed to be a place of perfect tomb-like silence. But when we first lowered sensitive hydrophones into the midnight zone, we were shocked. It is loud. It is full of strange, unidentifiable clicks, groans, boops, and moans. Some are whale songs, distorted and echoing for hundreds of miles. Some are earthquakes on the seafloor. But many are a mystery. In 1997, hydrophones recorded a sound known as the bloop, an ultra-low frequency noise louder than any known animal, and it was never, ever identified. It's a world of noise but no sight, and for an eel, this is the new, terrifying frontier. It must abandon its eyes, the things that defined its conger form. It must embrace the dark. It must become a low and slow creature. And it must learn to see with new, stranger senses. The deconstruction of the eel, the stripping for parts, has truly begun. You are drifting in the total freezing black of the midnight zone. You have accepted that there is nothing to see. And then, something does appear. It's not a light. It's a color. Floating in the beam of your submersible's lights, it's a shocking, fleshy, orange red. It's not a creature of the dark. It looks like a creature from a bright tropical reef. But it's here. This is it. This is the eel from the video, the one so rare it's a living myth. Neocyema erythrorum. That bright red color is our scientific evidence for this section. It's not a mistake, and it's not for show. It is the perfect deep-sea camouflage. Here's why. The long, weak wavelengths of red light are the first to be filtered out by water. Down here, at 3,000 feet, red light does not exist. So when a creature is a deep, rich red, and the only light available is the faint blue-green glow from bioluminescent creatures, that red skin absorbs the blue-green light completely. It reflects nothing. Being bright red in the deep sea is the same as being coated in the most advanced, pitch-black, stealth bomber paint. It is a form of perfect pigment-based invisibility. You get closer, and you see what the video meant when it said this eel looks unfinished. It's a gelatinous, fragile-looking thing. Its skin is so thin and transparent, you can see the shadow of its spine and the dark mass of its internal organs, just as the video described. It looks less like a finished animal and more like a living, swimming, half-finished embryo. And then you look at its head. You look for the eyes. And there are none. Where the giant, goggle-like eyes of the conger should be, there is just smooth, red skin. They are, as the video perfectly stated, completely vestigial. They are tiny, buried, useless specks of tissue, lost under the skin, with no lens, no retina, no connection to the brain. They are nothing but a faint, evolutionary echo of an ancestor that once knew the sun. This eel is totally, permanently, and intentionally blind. It has willingly surrendered the sense of sight. This creature is, frankly, a biological rule breaker. This is our quirky tidbit. Its nickname is the red dwarf bobtail snipe eel, and it earns every part of that name. It's red. It's small. It has a weird, stubby tail, not the long, tapering whip of a normal eel. It has no scales. And here is the real puzzle, the detail that makes this creature so baffling. It also appears to have no lateral line. We'll learn what that is in a moment, but it's the distance touch system that all other fish use to see in the dark. This eel doesn't have it. It's a biological enigma, a ghost. It's so elusive that, as the video noted, it was only formally described in 2018 from a tiny handful of specimens accidentally caught in trawling nets. This very elusiveness is the source of a heated scholarly debate. Is Neocyama truly one of the rarest creatures on the planet? Or, as some scientists now suspect, does it just live in a place we never look? Is it a hyper-specialist that thrives in the bizarre, superheated, chemical-rich water around hydrothermal vents, a place so extreme our submersibles can barely go, let alone our nets? We don't know. It's a floating, red, unfinished riddle. It's an eel that has surrendered its sight, and it seems to have surrendered its distance touch as well. It forces us to ask the most basic question. If you have no eyes and you have no lateral line, how do you find food? How do you find a mate? How do you even know you're not about to be eaten? It seems like an impossible way to live. But the abyss, as we are about to find, has other, stranger senses. If you give up your eyes, you must find another way to see. And for most of the creatures in the Midnight Zone, that new sense is not new at all. It's an old primitive sense now upgraded into a superpower. You, as the listener, now possess it. You can feel the water around you, not as a simple, wet, cold sensation, but as a map. You can feel the shape of the darkness. This is the lateral line. On a surface fish, our mainstream historical fact, the lateral line is just a faint, dotted line of pores running down its side. For centuries, naturalists were baffled by it. It was first described in the 17th century, but it was assumed to be part of the eel's slime system, just pores for secreting mucus. Its true, and frankly incredible, sensory function wasn't understood or confirmed until the 20th century. This is our scientific evidence. Those pores are not for slime. They are the openings to a long internal canal that runs the length of the fish's body, just under the skin. And inside that canal, protected from the world, are clusters of tiny, delicate, hair-like cells called neuromasts. Each one is a microscopic motion detector, a tiny living ear that, instead of hearing sound, hears water movement. When a fish moves, it pushes water, creating a bow wave, a pressure signature. When a shrimp kicks its legs, it sends out a tiny, high-frequency flicker in the water. The lateral line is so sensitive, it picks up these vibrations, these tiny pressure changes, and sends a signal to the brain. This is how a school of fish moves as one, 1,000 bodies turning in perfect, instant unison. They aren't seeing each other. They are feeling each other's pressure map in the water. Now, here in the Midnight Zone, in the absolute total silent black, this sense becomes everything. It becomes hypersensitive. The pores of the lateral line on these deep-sea eels are no longer small, simple holes. They have become large, complex, sometimes exposed dishes, like nerve endings left open to the sea. The canals are wider. The neuromasts are more numerous. You can feel it now. Your entire body has become a single, giant, three-dimensional eardrum. You can see in 360 degrees. You can feel the slow, dense, hydraulic pulse of a larger predator. 40 feet away, approaching from your left. You can feel the shape of its bow wave, and know, without seeing, that it is big. You turn, and you can feel the empty water, the void of a crevice or a canyon in the seafloor, because the water there is still. And then you feel it. A tiny, faint, staccato vibration. Flick, flick, flick. It's a vibration you recognize. It's the pulse of a small crustacean, a deep-sea shrimp, kicking its tiny legs. It's 20 feet away. You can't see it. You can't hear it. But you can feel its exquisite location in the grid of the dark. This is distance touch. It is the ability to paint a picture of your world, not with light, but with pressure. Scholars still debate whether this sense is more akin to hearing or touching. But the truth is, it's something in between, a sense we land dwellers simply do not have. The eels of the midnight zone, the ones that haven't lost this system like the bizarre Neosyema, are the masters of this sense. They have sacrificed their eyes, those calorie-burning luxuries, and in their place have perfected this older, more efficient, and more haunting way of seeing. They are not swimming in darkness. They are swimming in a world of complex, beautiful, and terrifying shapes, a world made entirely of movement and vibration. So, you have this new superpower, this distance touch. You can see in 360 degrees using only the pressure of the water. But a new sense is only as good as the weapons you have to use it. In a world of total darkness and near zero food, you can't afford a long, muscular chase. That's a waste of calories. The hunt has to be a single, precise, and lethally efficient act. And so, in the midnight zone, the eel's body has evolved into two new, nightmarish, and highly specialized weapons. You sense a presence, a long, thin line in the water. It's motionless. You are looking at a saw-tooth eel, the Cerevoma. It is, as the video noted, long, black, and paper-thin. It's a living razor blade, hanging in the void. And its face is a mess of permanent aggression. The video called it a permanent snarl. And that's the perfect description. Its jaws are long, and they are packed with hundreds of tiny, backward-pointing, needle-like teeth. The jawbones themselves are serrated, like a saw, which gives the creature its name. This is not a sit-and-wait predator in the lazy sense. This is a sit-and-wait predator in the angry, spring-loaded trap sense. It's using its lateral line to feel for that flick, flick, flick of a small crustacean, or even better, another small fish. When something comes close, it doesn't chase. It explodes, it strikes, and those hundreds of teeth are not for chewing. They are for trapping. The prey is instantly impaled on a one-way fence of needles. The more it struggles, the deeper the teeth sink in. This creature is a specialist in desperation. This is our scientific evidence. The video was exactly right when it said this eel will eat just about anything, including other eels. Stomach content analysis of Cerevoma has shown that they are, indeed, cannibalistic. This isn't some gruesome, monstrous act of betrayal. It's just lunch. In the crushing, freezing, food-scarce abyss, you are a long, thin, low-energy creature. And you just found another long, thin, low-energy creature. It's not a 5-star meal, but it's more calories than you had a minute ago. It's a practical, high-protein, and, let's be honest, incredibly convenient snack. Our mainstream historical fact is that the discovery of these creatures in the late 19th century by expeditions like the Challenger fundamentally broke the brains of the biologists on board. Men like Albert Gunther, sorting through the nets, were suddenly faced with a rogues gallery of life that seemed to be all mouth and no body. The sawtooth eel was a prime example of a new, degenerate form of life, a creature that had been stripped down to a simple swimming jaw. But the sawtooth is a brute. It's a simple saw-toothed club. The darkness has another, more elegant, and frankly, far weirder solution. You sense another shape. It's also long, impossibly long, and so thin it almost doesn't register on your lateral line. This is the snipe eel, or Nemicthis. This is our quirky tidbit. Its scientific name literally means threadfish, and it is not an exaggeration. This creature can be 6 feet long, but its body is, for most of that length, no thicker than a pencil. It is a living, swimming black ribbon. But the jaws. You have to see the jaws. As the video described, they are warped and stretched. They are two impossibly long, delicate, bone-thin beaks that curve outwards away from each other, like a pair of delicate antique tweezers that someone has ruined. And, as the video noted, they cannot close. It is physically impossible for this eel to shut its mouth. It's a creature with a permanently open, useless-looking face. So how does it eat? It doesn't. Not in the way you think. It's not a predator. It's a picker. You watch it hunt. It doesn't strike. It doesn't chase. It just drifts. It swims very, very slowly, with its bizarre, non-closing beak wide open. It is a living net. It's using that hypersensitive lateral line, that distance touch. It's listening for the flick, flick, flick of a tiny copepod or a deep-sea shrimp. When it senses one, it doesn't bite. It doesn't lunge. It just intersects with it. It just swims over it. The tiny shrimp, kicking in the dark, drifts right between those open, curving jaws and is instantly snagged on the even tinier, backward-pointing teeth that line the inside of the beak. It's not hunting. It's sniping, as the video said. It's like biological flypaper. A very slow, very patient, and frankly, very depressing flypaper. This creature's life is already an absurd, minimalist poem. But it gets worse, especially if you are a male snipe eel. This is the great, bizarre, scholarly debate that rages in the world of deep-sea biology. How does the male snipe eel live? Because something happens to the males when they reach maturity. Their beak, that intricate, delicate food-catching apparatus, suddenly shrinks. It becomes short and stubby, and at the exact same time, their entire digestive system, their gut, just dissolves. Does that sound familiar? It's the same suicidal one-way ticket we saw in the freshwater silver eel that swims back to the Sargasso. It is now believed that once a male snipe eel becomes an adult, he never eats again. His entire remaining life, which might be months or even a year, is spent in this freezing, crushing, absolute dark, with no way to get energy, on a single, desperate, and very, very hangry quest. Use his hypersensitive nose to find a female before he literally starves to death. 2 solutions to the midnight hunger. The sawtooth, which became all teeth, and the snipe, which became all tweezers. Both are strange, minimalist, and perfectly adapted for a world with no light and no food. But there is one source of light down here, and it's not from above. You have surrendered your eyes, your sense of sight, to the darkness. You have accepted that this is a world of pressure maps and vibration, a world of distance touch. You are floating in that total, perfect black, a blind ghost in a haunted house. And then a light flashes. It's not the sun. It's not a reflection. It is a tiny, precise, cold pinprick of blue-green light, like a single LED winking at you from the void. And then another flashes to your left, and a string of them, like a distant runway, pulses far below you. The blackness is not empty. It is a galaxy. You are surrounded by a slow, silent, and endless metropolis of living stars. This is bioluminescence. This is the only light the midnight zone will ever know. And it's not a hot, burning, physical light like the one from our sun. It is a cold, clean, chemical light. This is our scientific evidence, and it is one of the most staggering facts in all of biology. Bioluminescence is the single most common form of communication on Earth. We on the surface think of it as a rare, magical exception. A firefly, a glowing tide. We are wrong. On land, it's a neat trick. In the open ocean, it is the law. It is the dominant language. Current estimates are that 90% of all organisms living in the deep sea, from the bacteria on a fish's scale to the fish itself, to the giant 100-foot squid, all produce their own light. This is a world lit and defined by its own inhabitants. The chemistry is almost insultingly elegant. It's a simple two-part reaction. An organism possesses a molecule called luciferin. Think of it as the fuel. It then produces an enzyme called luciferase, the spark or the switch. When and only when the creature decides to, it combines the two. The luciferase oxidizes the luciferin, and the result of that single, simple chemical reaction is a tiny, perfect, cold photon of light. There is no heat. There is no wasted energy. It is a 98% efficient reaction, a masterpiece of biological engineering that our own best light bulbs, which waste 90% of their energy as heat, can only dream of. This brings us to our mainstream historical fact. Surface dwellers have been baffled and terrified by this cold light for millennia. The Roman naturalist Pliny the Elder, the same one who thought eels were born from rock rubbings, wrote with utter beautiful confusion about a jellyfish he called pulmo marinus, or the sea lung. He noted, with what one can only assume was a shaky hand, that it shined. He described how if you took this glowing jelly and rubbed it on a piece of wood, the wood itself would then glow in the dark, which must have been a profoundly supernaturally terrifying experience for a Roman. For centuries, sailors would return from long voyages with impossible, drunken-sounding stories of milky seas or burning tides, where for hundreds of miles the entire ocean would glow an eerie, uniform, whitish green. They were, of course, dismissed as madmen. We now know they were telling the literal truth. They had sailed their wooden ships through a massive, ocean-sized bloom of bioluminescent bacteria, a sea of living, glowing microbes. This living light eventually became a subject of intense, paranoid military interest. This is our quirky tidbit. During the height of the Cold War, the United States Navy was obsessed with it. They were building a new fleet of silent nuclear submarines designed to be the perfect, invisible predators. And then they were struck by a terrifying thought. As one of these multi-billion-dollar, top-secret subs moved through the deep, dark water, wouldn't it disturb all this living light? Wouldn't it, in effect, create a massive 300-foot-long glowing V in the water, a glowing trail of disturbed, angry plankton. They were afraid that an enemy plane or a new spy satellite could simply look down and see a giant glowing arrow pointing right at their stealth submarine. The entire stealth program was potentially being defeated by tiny glowing shrimp. So scholars are still in a lively debate over the full vocabulary of this light language, but it seems to have three main purposes. First, defense. You're a tiny shrimp. A fish grabs you. You can't fight back. So you scream. You let off a single blinding, brilliant flash of light. This is the burglar alarm. It startles the fish, who might drop you. But more importantly, it illuminates the fish that's eating you, making it visible to something even bigger. It's a suicidal, if I'm going down, I'm taking you with me. Light bomb. Second, communication. In the total crushing dark, you still need to find a mate. That male snipe eel, the one starving to death, is not just smelling for a female. He is looking. He is scanning the dark for the one specific, secret pattern of flashes, two short, one long, that only a female Nemesis can make. It's a species-specific, silent Morse code of light, winking, I'm here, I'm a match, I'm here, in the endless, lonely void. And then there is the third, and most sinister, purpose. A purpose that one family of eels, our true eels, has perfected. You see a light. It's not a flash. It's not a scream. It's not a pattern. It's a single, faint, dangling light. Just hanging, motionless in the water. It's a soft, pinkish red glow. It's a color that's almost never seen down here. It looks interesting. It looks, maybe, like a tiny, wounded, bioluminescent crustacean dying. It's a question hanging in the dark. It is a lure. And this lure, this single, patient, dangling light, is the gateway to our next and most monstrous destination. We are sinking past the midnight zone, past 4,000 meters, and into the true bottomless pit. That single, dangling, pinkish red light. That false question hanging in the void. It is a trap. And it is a trap set in the most extreme, most alien, and most vast world on our planet. We are sinking past the midnight zone. The last, faint, winking galaxy of bioluminescent life is fading above us. We are now descending past 4,000 meters. That's 13,000 feet. You are over 2.5 miles deep in the ocean. You have now entered the abyssopelagic zone. We just call it the Abyss. It's a perfect name. This is our quirky tidbit. The word abyss comes from the Greek abyssos, which means quite simply bottomless or unfathomable. For the ancient world, this wasn't a zone. It was a place of pure theological terror. It was the pit, the void, the literal, physical hell that existed under the world. They were, it turns out, not entirely wrong. The pressure here is not something you feel. It is something that has erased the very concept of normal. You are at 400 atmospheres. That is nearly 6,000 pounds of pressure on every single square inch of your body. It is a pressure so vast, so all-encompassing, that it is crushing the water itself, making it measurably denser. It is a pressure that warps the very structure of proteins, a force that would, in an instant, turn a human body into a non-human. The environment is a perfect, unchanging, and eternal void. The water is utterly, completely, physically black. There are no more photons. Ever. It is deathly still. The great currents of the surface are just a distant, mythical memory, and the temperature is just a single, non-negotiable degree above freezing, and it will stay that way for the next 4 miles down. This is our mainstream historical fact, and the great, terrible paradox of the deep. The abyss is the single largest habitat on planet Earth, making up over 80% of our world, and it is also the most empty. It is the world's biggest desert, a cold, dark, high-pressure liquid desert, and its defining feature is the hunger. If the midnight zone was food scarce, this is food bankrupt. The reign of marine snow is over. It has all been eaten or has rotted and dissolved on the 13,000-foot-long journey down. There is nothing to eat. A creature living here might wait days, weeks, months for a single microscopic fecal pellet to drift by. A good meal, like the dead body of a large fish or the carcass of a whale, might be the only major food event to happen in this square mile for 50 years. This is our scientific evidence. The creatures here are living in a state of permanent, generational famine. And this famine, this absolute, crushing lack of calories, has selected for 2, and only 2, evolutionary strategies. 1. Extreme, radical energy conservation. You must move as little as possible. Your heart must beat at a glacial pace. Your thoughts, if you have them, must be slow. Your body must be low cost, built of gelatin and water, not calorie-expensive muscle. You must be a creature of pure, drifting, minimalist patience. 2. The ability to eat anything. Because a real meal might only come once in your entire, long, slow life, you cannot afford to be picky. You cannot afford to be a shrimp picker, like the snipe eel. You must have a body plan that allows you to consume and hold a meal that is 2, 5, or even 10 times your own body mass. It is a one-and-done feeding strategy. Eat one enormous meal, and then spend the next year slowly digesting it, drifting in the dark, waiting for the next one. Scholars are still in a heated debate about the true nature of this emptiness. For a century, we believed it was a true biological desert. But more and more, we are finding a hidden ecosystem, a vast global mat of bacteria and archaea living in the seafloor mud, eating the chemicals of the rock itself. It's possible the abyss is not empty at all, but rather full of microbial life that our eyes and our old theories just couldn't see. But for a large animal, for an eel, this is a world of pure, brutal, logical extremes. The versatile, adaptable, Swiss Army knife body plan of the eel, it is now about to be pushed to its most grotesque and most perfectly specialized final form. The eel's body is about to be deconstructed one last time. It's about to lose itself. It's about to become nothing but a function for that dangling pinkish light. It is about to become a mouth. You drift closer to that faint pinkish light. You are trying to find the creature that is making it. And then you realize, with a slow, dawning cold feeling, you are not looking at the creature. You are looking at the end of the creature. The creature itself is a long, black, impossible shadow. A thin, whip-like ribbon, 6 feet long, hanging in the void. the light is just the tip of its tail. The rest of the animal, the business end, is somewhere up in the darkness. This is it. The monster from our introduction. This is the Gulper Eel, Eurypharynx pelecanoides. You have to recalibrate your entire understanding of what an animal is. As the video said, it honestly doesn't even look real. It is a biological impossibility, a creature that seems to have been designed by a child with a fever. It is a body deconstructed. It is biological subtraction. It's barely an eel at all. It is, quite simply, a mouth. A mouth with a long, thin digestive tract and a tail attached, almost as an afterthought. You look at its head, but it's not a head. It's just jaws. The creature's skull is 75% jaw. Its face is a pair of long, curving, delicate bones that are almost unhinged from its tiny, tiny brain case. Its mouth is, as the video noted, massive. It is disproportionate to a degree that is laughable and terrifying. It can balloon to a size several times larger than the eel's own body, opening up like a grotesque black parachute. This is the one-and-done feeding strategy. The Gulper eel is a living net. It does not hunt. It does not chase. That would be an appalling waste of precious, irreplaceable calories. It just drifts. It hangs, motionless, in the 6,000 psi darkness. And it waits. And it waits with its lure. This is our scientific evidence. At the very end of that long, whip-like tail, it has a tiny, complex, and beautiful light-producing organ. It's not a simple flash, it's a complex flasher. It can glow a steady, faint blue-green, or it can pulse. And most importantly, it can flash that soft, pinkish-red glow. This is a color almost never seen in the abyss, a wavelength that most deep-sea eyes can't even register. But some crustaceans, some deep-sea shrimp, do use red light bioluminescence. The gulper is impersonating them. It is dangling a false promise, a tiny glowing "help me, I'm wounded" sign in the middle of the desert. When the first specimens of this were hauled up in 19th century trawling nets, it was pure terror. This is our mainstream historical fact. Sailors, already superstitious, were pulling up nets from the bottomless void, and in them was this, a black, slimy, 6-foot ribbon, but also a mouth that could swallow a cannonball, even when the creature was dead. It was seen as absolute, physical, nightmarish proof of the sea serpent legends. Its very name, Eurypharynx pelecanoides, is a kind of dry biologist's joke. This is our quirky tidbit. It just means wide pharynx, pelican-like. It's not a name, it's a description. It is simply the pelican eel. Scientists are still in a heated debate over what exactly we are looking at. Is this bizarre, minimalist body plan primitive? A survivor? A holdover from some ancient, simple, jaw-first ancestor? Or is it the exact opposite? A hyper-specialized, brand-new design. An eel that has, over millions of years, evolved away its own body, stripping itself down for parts until it was nothing but a low-cost, drifting calorie trap? You are watching this mouth, as it waits. A small, curious fish, maybe a deep-sea bristlemouth, sees the faint, pink, pulsing light. It sees an easy meal. It darts in to investigate. And the gulper inhales. The mouth explodes. It doesn't bite. It unfurls. The jaw bones, held by a sling of muscle, balloon outwards and downwards, forming a vast black circular net. The net envelops the tiny, stupid fish, and a gallon of black, freezing water along with it. The net then slowly contracts. The water is squeezed out through its modified, slit-like gills, and the fish is trapped. It has been swallowed, not by an animal, but by an event, by a living, patient black hole. That's the hunt. A single, passive, explosive gulp. But now, let's look at the hunter. Let's really, truly appreciate this minimalist masterpiece. This creature is the result of evolution taking a normal eel and just stripping it for parts. It's a Frankenfish built from the leftovers. This is our scientific evidence. As the video noted, the body is paper-thin. It is essentially a gelatinous bag, a creature of water structured by protein, as we'll see. It has no scales, which are heavy, and a waste of calories to grow. It has no swim bladder, that internal balloon that normal fish use to control their buoyancy. It doesn't need one. Its watery jelly-like flesh and its oily, light, cartilaginous bones make it perfectly, neutrally buoyant. It can hang here, motionless, without spending a single calorie on swimming. It has achieved the dream of all life in the abyss, perfect, energy-free drifting. But to afford this drifting lifestyle, it had to make cuts, and the cuts were brutal. Let's start with the command center. You look at this enormous jaw-heavy head, and you look for the brain. You'd be looking for a while. This is our quirky tidbit, and it's the best, most insulting, and truest fact about this creature. As the video stated, the Gulper Eel's brain is tiny. It is about the size of a pea. It is a pathetic wet knot of simple nerves tucked away behind that enormous, empty, ballooning mouth cavity. It is, frankly, an embarrassment. It's a brain just barely big enough to run the drift, lure, gulp program. It has no capacity for complex thought, for strategy, for fear, or for anything really. It is an automaton, a living biological machine built for a single purpose. And its eyes? You might look at the front of its snout and see two large, prominent-looking sockets and think, ah, those must be the eyes. But you'd be wrong. As the video pointedly noted, those aren't its nostrils. And then, in a beautiful, confusing twist, it says, those are its eyes. But no, let's clarify that. Those two large, forward-facing things are, in fact, its nostrils, its olfactory organs. They are huge because in the total dark, the only way to find a mate is to smell their pheromones from miles away. The gulper's head is 75% mouth and 25% nose. So where are the eyes? They are the tiny, pathetic, non-functional specks on the side of the head. They are, as the video said, tiny. They are vestigial. They have no lens, no retina. They are just useless evolutionary leftovers. This bizarre, all mouth and nose, no brain design terrified the first humans to see it. This is our mainstream historical fact. When the first 19th century trawl scientists, the ones on ships like the Challenger, pulled this thing up from 8,000 feet, it caused a sensation. The sailors, already spooked by the bottomless pit, saw a 6-foot-long black, slimy ribbon with a mouth that could swallow a man's head, even in death. This was not a fish. This was a monster. This was a baby sea serpent. This was proof that hell was real, and it was just a few miles down. This all feeds into the great, ongoing scholarly debate. Is this creature primitive? Is it a living fossil? A holdover from the simple mouth-first dawn of life? Or is it the exact opposite? Most scientists now land firmly on the opposite side. This is not a simple animal. This is a simplified animal. This is not an ancient relic. It's a hyper-modern, minimalist design. It's an eel that has, over millions of years, evolved away its own body. It has willingly sacrificed its brain, its bones, its muscles, and its eyes, all to perfect the single, low-cost, calorie-pinching art of waiting. It's not a monster. It's a masterpiece of biological downsizing. But you'd be wrong to think this is the most extreme solution to the eat one giant thing problem. Nature always has a competitor. You'd be forgiven for thinking the Gulper Eel is the final logical extreme of the eat one giant thing strategy. It's a compelling case. A living, drifting, pea-brained net. But evolution hates a monopoly. The abyss is vast, and that giant mouth ecological niche is too good to leave to just one family. Nature, it turns out, has a competitor. And as the video said, this one is even more disturbing. You see it now, and it's nothing. It's just a small, black, entirely unremarkable fish. It's maybe a foot long, with a simple eel-like tapering body. This is the black swallower, Chiasmodon niger. The first thing you must understand is that this is not an eel. It's not even related. It's a perciform, a spiny-rayed fish, meaning it's more closely related to a perch or a tuna than it is to the gulper or the moray. This is a staggering example of convergent evolution. Two completely separate, unrelated lineages living in the same lightless, food-poor desert have looked at the how-to-survive problem and arrived at the exact same nightmarish solution. The gulper's solution was to become 75% mouth. The swallower's solution is to become 75% stomach. You watch this boring little black fish as it hunts. It finds a meal, another fish, maybe a bristlemouth. And the bristlemouth is, well, it's bigger than the swallower. This should be a problem. It is not. The swallower's jaws don't just unhinge, they do something closer to detaching. The bones of its jaw and the suspensorium that holds them are all elastic, designed to bow outwards and around an object, like a snake. Its alien pharyngeal jaws, remember those, are not for launching like the moray, but for walking. They have teeth, and they walk the prey down its throat, one ratchet-like pull at a time. But the jaws are just the door. The stomach is the main event. As the video said, its entire body is basically just a mouth and a stomach. Its gut is not a simple tube. It's a black, distensible, biologically optional bag. It is, in its resting state, a tiny, folded-up thing. But when a meal comes, it can stretch, and stretch, and stretch grotesquely, as the video described. This is our scientific evidence. The swallower's stomach, which is black, to hide the light of any bioluminescent prey it has just eaten, can distend to such an incredible degree that the creature can, and does, regularly swallow prey that is twice its own length and 10 times its own mass. You can see it now. The swallower has walked the larger fish into its gut. And its body. It has become a monstrosity. Its once boring black fish-shaped body is now just a grotesque, transparent, stretched thin balloon. You can see the entire outline of the other, larger fish inside it. Its skin stretched so tight, it's see-through, its own organs crushed up against its spine to make room. It is, for all intents and purposes, a fish that has been stuffed with another, larger fish. It looks like a biological impossibility, a child's drawing of greed. And now, for this creature's most famous and most embarrassing trick. How do we know all this? How have we studied a creature from 9,000 feet down that is so good at this? This is our mainstream historical fact and our quirky tidbit all in one. We know this, almost exclusively, because of its failures. The vast majority of black swallower specimens in museums all over the world were not found in the deep. They were found by horrified fishermen and beachcombers, dead and floating on the surface. Here is the swallower's fatal gassy flaw. It finds a meal. It is ambitious. It finds a giant, bony, deep-sea fish, and its entire brain, its entire evolutionary purpose, screams one word. Eat! It performs its impossible, jaw-detaching, stomach-ballooning magic trick. It gets the fish in. It is a moment of pure, gluttonous triumph. And then, the bill comes due. The fish it has swallowed is so large, and the swallower's own metabolism is so low and slow. Remember that? That it cannot digest the meal fast enough. The giant, dead fish inside its stomach begins to rot. It begins to decompose. And, as you know from anything that has ever rotted, decomposition produces gas. The swallower, this deep-sea stealth predator, has just turned its own body into a biogas production facility. The gas from the rotting meal inflates its balloon stomach. It becomes a zeppelin. A grotesque, fish-shaped zeppelin. Its perfect neutral buoyancy is instantly and fatally ruined. It becomes positively buoyant. It begins to float up. It is now a prisoner of its own, last gassy meal. It floats helplessly, rising for miles, past the abyss, past the midnight zone, past the twilight zone. The pressure around it is dropping, and as the pressure drops, the gases inside its stomach expand. It floats faster. It swells more. Scientists still argue over this creature's strategy. Are we only seeing the failures? Are there thousands of successful swallowers in the deep, happily digesting their reasonable meals? And we are just, by pure accident, only seeing the stupid ones who let their eyes get bigger than their infinitely stretchable stomachs? We are, in effect, studying an entire species based only on its most spectacular, gassy, and fatal mistakes. It is a life of supreme, terrifying gluttony, punctuated by a final, humiliating, and explosive death as it bursts onto the surface of the ocean, a leaking, swollen, and deeply embarrassed trophy of its own ambition. The black swallower, with its gassy, fatal ambition, is a creature of the mid-abyss. But we are not done. We are going deeper. We are sinking past 5,000 meters. We are sinking past 6,000 meters. That is 20,000 feet down. You are now 4 miles deep in the ocean. You have left the abyssopelagic and are now touching the cold, black, and final floor of the world. The Huddle Zone, the realm of the deep-sea trenches. The pressure here is 800 atmospheres, 11,000 psi. It is a pressure that, as we'll see, fundamentally stops normal life. This is the absolute, crushing, end of the line. And here, drifting just above the mud, in a world that should not, by any of our rules, support a vertebrate animal, you find the final boss. The video called it the minimalist version of life, and it is the most perfect and most terrifying description of all. This is the one-jaw eel, Monognathus. You look at it, and you don't know what you're looking at. It is a small, black, ribbon-like thing. But its face is wrong. It's not weird like the gulper. It is incomplete. The video stated it has no upper jaw. And you must understand, this is not a metaphor. This is not an exaggeration. This is a literal, anatomical, and deeply disturbing truth. This is our scientific evidence. The creature's skull is missing. The top half, the maxilla and pre-maxilla, the bones that, in every other fish, every reptile, every mammal, every ewe, form the roof of the mouth. They are just gone. They have been evolved away. Its skull is not a skull. It is a tiny, primitive, cartilaginous brain case, like the one in a 500-million-year-old hagfish. And hinged to that tiny brain case is one bone, a single, long, fang-studded lower jaw. That's it. That's the entire animal. A brain box, a single jawbone, and a long, digestive tube body. It is, as the video noted, a minimalist version of life, taken to its most absurd, logical conclusion. You look closer. The video was right. There are no functional fins, just a tiny, ribbon-like fringe. There are non-functional speck eyes, just two pinpricks of useless, buried pigment. This is deconstruction. This is evolution as a stripper for parts. This animal has, in its quest to survive in this 11,000 PSY hell, evolved away its own face. This is our mainstream historical fact. When the first Monognathus specimens were dredged up in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, they were a biological crisis. They broke the rules of anatomy. They were a degenerate form of life that scientists who were still deeply religious simply could not place. They were, like the gulper, seen as a kind of monstrous mistake, a creature from a world that God had apparently forgotten. And this leads to the most obvious and most insane scholarly debate. How does it eat? How do you hunt when you are a skull? That is only half a skull? The video's theory is one of the main ones, that it uses its targal lower jaw like a hook, impaling prey that drifts by, and then just somehow swallowing it. But there is another, even stranger and more terrifying theory. This is our quirky tidbit. You look at the very front of that single lower jaw, and there you see it. A single large hollow fang. A fang that seems to have a gland at its base. The leading and most horrifying theory is that Monognathus is not a hook-eater. It is a viper. The theory is that it strikes out with its single jaw, impales its prey, probably a shrimp, on that single venomous fang, and injects it with a flesh-dissolving venom. It then just waits for the shrimp to die and turn into a liquid slurry in the water, which the jawless eel can then just drink. It is an eel that has not only lost its face, but has replaced chewing with chemical warfare. It is a floating, venom-injecting brain box. It is the perfect, low-energy, slow-motion, and utterly ghastly survivor of the final, crushing, bottomless floor of the world, But this monornithus, this one jaw, it raises a question that is more fundamental than how it eats. How does it even exist? How does any of this exist? We, as surface dwellers, have a very cartoonish idea of pressure. We think of it as a weight. You are now 4 miles deep, feeling 11,000 pounds of pressure on every square inch of your body. We imagine that this pressure would just flatten you, like a pancake. But the truth is far stranger and more intimate. You are, after all, mostly water, and water is famously incompressible. So the pressure doesn't crush you, not in that way, it just flows through you. It equalizes instantly. The real problem, the real monster, is what that pressure does to the tiny, delicate machinery inside your cells. This is our scientific evidence. High pressure is a saboteur. It attacks the very shape of life. First, it attacks your cell membranes. Your cells are held together by a soft, flexible lipid. Fatty wall, the 11,000 psi of the Hadal zone compresses this wall. It squeezes those lipids together until your once soft, once flexible cell wall becomes as rigid and as useless as a tiny, frozen plastic shield. And then it attacks your proteins. This is the real killer. Proteins are the building blocks of life. They are the enzymes, the molecules, the machines that do everything. Digest your food, fire your nerves, contract your muscles. And they only work because they are folded into incredibly complex, beautiful 3D origami shapes. The pressure of the abyss hates these shapes. It physically unfolds them. It's like boiling an egg. Heat unfolds the proteins in the egg white, turning them from clear and liquid to white and solid. Pressure does the exact same thing. It's called denaturing. Down here, the pressure is so high, it is literally boiling your proteins with cold, turning all of your delicate, complex, living machinery into a useless, solid, cooked mass. Normal life is impossible. So how do they do it? How does the gulper, the snipe, the one jaw, how do they live? They have a secret weapon, a tiny chemical shield that they pack into every single cell of their bodies. It's called trimethylamine N-oxide, TMAO. TMAO is a piezolyte. That just means pressure-protecting molecule, and it is a masterpiece of biological engineering. It works by, essentially, grabbing onto water molecules. It holds a tiny, rigid shell of water around itself, and it forces that same rigid, protective shell of water to form around the eel's delicate proteins. It's like putting a tiny, custom-made molecular suit of armor on every single protein in the eel's body. The TMAO physically stops the pressure from being able to grip the protein. It stops it from being unfolded. It is the chemical key that allows life to exist where it should not. This is our mainstream historical fact. The discovery of TMAO's role in the 1970s and 80s was a massive breakthrough. It finally solved the biological pressure limit. The mystery that had haunted the Challenger expedition scientists had been baffled, asking, how are these creatures not cooked? TMAO was the answer. And this is our quirky tidbit. You already know TMAO. You hate TMAO. TMAO is the molecule that, when it breaks down in a dead fish, produces trimethylamine, which is the compound that gives rotting fish its iconic, gag-inducing, fishy smell. And here's the kicker. The deeper a fish lives, the more pressure it's under. And the more pressure it's under, the more TMAO it has to pack into its cells to survive. This is a direct, linear scientific fact, which means the deeper a fish lives, the worse it smells when it rots. That fishy smell you hate? That is quite literally the smell of anti-pressure. It is the smell of the deep abyss, the chemical ghost of the 11,000 psi hell that this creature had to fight every single second of its life just to stay folded. That TMAO, that tiny chemical suit of armor, is the internal solution. It's how the eel saves its delicate microscopic machinery from being cooked by the cold pressure. But it's only half the answer, because you still have a body, you still have a structure, and a structure in a world of 11,000 psi is just a target. So, what is the physical solution? How do you build a body that can withstand a force that can crack the hull of a military submarine? The answer, and it's a beautiful, elegant, and deeply frustrating one, is you don't. You don't fight the pressure. You surrender to it. You join it. You build a body that is so weak, so flimsy, and so utterly pathetic by our standards that the pressure doesn't even notice it's there. Think about how we try to go deep. This is our mainstream historical fact. From the very first diving bells in the 16th century to a modern multi-billion-dollar nuclear sub, our entire strategy is based on fighting. We build a rigid, thick, incredibly strong shell of steel or titanium. We are trying to build a tiny one-atmosphere bubble of our world and protect it violently from the 11,000 psi outside. This is an engineering nightmare. It's a constant, high-energy, explosive battle. The Gulper Eel, the Snipe Eel, the Neo-Siema, they all looked at this problem, and they just didn't do that. This is our scientific evidence. Their bodies are gelatinous. As the video noted, they are paper-thin. They have almost no bone, replacing it with light, flexible cartilage. They have very little muscle. Muscle is dense, heavy, and calorically expensive to build and maintain. It's a luxury they cannot afford. Instead, their flesh is, as the outline perfectly stated, water, structured by protein. It's a mucopolysaccharide jelly. They are, in essence, just a slightly more organized jellyfish. They are goo. And here is why that is genius. You are now a Gulper Eel, 4 miles down. You are, let's be honest, 95% water. The world outside of you is 100% water. And water, as you know, is incompressible. So the 11,000 pounds of pressure outside of you just flows through you. It presses on your watery skin, which presses on your watery cells, which are full of water. The pressure inside your body instantly and perfectly equalizes with the pressure outside your body. The pressure on the inside of your cell wall is 11,000 psi. The pressure on the outside is 11,000 psi. The net force on your body is 0. You are in perfect, Zen-like hydrostatic equilibrium. The pressure isn't a monster, it's just the air. It is completely, totally, and blessedly irrelevant. This is why they are paper-thin and gelatinous. This is why, this is our quirky tidbit, they are a total rip-off from a meat perspective. If you could drag a 5-foot snipe eel to the surface without it exploding, and put it on a scale, you'd find it was a fish-flavored water balloon that was 90% liquid. It's not degenerate or weak. It is the physical manifestation of work smarter, not harder. Its weakness is its armor. And this jelly solution, it turns out, is everywhere. It's not just these eels, it's the true jellyfish. It's the ctenophores, or comb jellies. It's the siphonophores, the 100-foot-long string-like jelly colonies. It's the glass squid, which are, just as their name implies, transparent, gooey squid. This has led to a massive, ongoing scholarly debate. Has this gelatinous body plan just evolved independently? Over and over and over in all these different unrelated families, because it's just a really good idea? Or is it the only idea? Is this jelly creature solution the only viable low-energy body plan for a creature that wants to live in the vast, empty, food-poor, high-pressure water column of the deep sea? Have all paths, by the sheer, brutal and unbending laws of physics and calories, forced all of these creatures into becoming goo? This is the great trade-off. To win the game of survival in the abyss, you have to retire. You have to give up being fast. You have to give up being strong. You have to give up being smart. Remember that pea-sized brain. You must become a slow, weak, watery and profoundly boring jelly creature. You must become a survivor. You've seen the true eels, the anguilliforms, in all their bizarre, deconstructed glory. You've seen them lose their color, their eyes, their jaws, their very faces, in a quest to survive the crushing, foodless void. But now you must understand, the true eels are newcomers. They are the modern high-tech models. The deep sea, the dark, muddy, abyssal floor. It has older models, and they are, by every conceivable human metric, infinitely, profoundly creepier. You are now on the abyssal plain, 4 miles down. A dead whale, a whale fall we'll explore later, rests on the mud, and the carcass is moving. It is writhing. It is covered in a mass of slick, purple, worm-like things. You think, more eels. You are wrong. You are looking at a hagfish. And the first, most important thing you must know about the hagfish is that it is not an eel. It is not a fish in the way you think of a fish. It is not even, by some strict definitions, a vertebrate. It is a nightmare. It is a survivor. It is, quite literally, a living fossil. This is our mainstream historical fact. This creature, this Makesine, has been slithering through the deep dark mud, almost completely unchanged, for 500 million years. Let that number sink in. That is not a typo. The hagfish is 500 million years old. It was ancient before the dinosaurs were born. It was here before trees evolved. It was here before the first fish ever crawled out of the water. It is a creature from a different, older and meaner planet, and it is still here, doing the one disgusting thing it has always done. You look closer. It's a tube of mottled purple-gray skin. It has no eyes, just 2 useless eye spots buried under its skin. And most importantly, it has no jaws. It is a cyclostome, a circle mouth. This is the great ancient split in our own family tree. This is a creature from before the invention of the jaw. Instead of a mouth, it has a grasping apparatus. It's a fleshy, muscular beak that can unfurl, and inside it has 2 hard, bony plates that rasp flesh, not bite it, and it has no spine. This is our scientific evidence. It has a primitive cartilaginous skull, just a box to hold its tiny brain, but it has no vertebral column. It has no bones. It is just a tube of muscle, nerve, and slime, built around a single flexible notochord. And this no-spine feature is not a weakness. It is its greatest weapon. This is our quirky tidbit. You watch one of the hagfish, which is trying to feed on the tough, leathery skin of the dead whale. It can't bite through. It needs leverage. So it ties itself in a knot. You watch, baffled, as it passes its own tail over its body, threads itself through the loop, and pulls. It creates a knot, and it pulls that knot down its body like a zipper until the knot is braced against the whale's skin. It then uses this knot as a fulcrum, a push point, to jam its rasping, bony mouth plates deeper into the flesh. It is literally using its own spineless, flexible body as a tool. It will also tie itself in this same knot to scrape its body clean, or to escape from a predator's mouth, literally knotting its way to freedom. But that is not its real trick. Its real trick is its slime. The hagfish is the vulture of the deep. It's a pure scavenger. It doesn't hunt. It just waits, using its hypersensitive barbels, like a catfish's whiskers, to smell death. And when it finds a carcass, it burrows in, rasping its way inside the body cavity to eat the soft, rotting organs from the inside out. It is a living, purple, tube-shaped undertaker, and as such, it is often attacked. A deep-sea shark, a conger eel, a larger fish. They all see this writhing, fleshy worm as an easy meal. A small shark swims up to the whale carcass and grabs one of the hagfish. This is a fatal, fatal mistake. The instant the shark's teeth touch its skin, the hagfish detonates. From a series of 100 slime glands running down its sides, the hagfish does not secrete mucus. It exudes a highly concentrated, protein-based goo. The instant this goo hits the seawater, a chemical reaction happens. The proteins unfurl, and they instantly trap the water molecules around them. In less than 1 second, a single thimble-sized puff of this goo expands, chain reaction style, into gallons. We are talking 5 gallons of thick, viscous, suffocating, translucent slime. The shark, which was expecting a worm, now has a mouthful of jelly. A mouth and a face and a gill system, completely and instantly clogged with a substance that is essentially industrial-grade snot. The shark is drowning. It can't breathe. The water can't flow over its gills. It is suffocating on this sudden, unswallowable, impossible cloud of slime. The shark, in a blind panic, lets go, twisting and gagging, trying to clear its gills. And the hagfish? It just swims away. It has just defeated an apex predator by being disgusting. And then, to add insult to injury, it will sneeze out the slime in its own nostrils, or tie itself in that knot to scrape the goo off its own body. And then, it just goes back to eating. Scientists are still in a heated debate over what exactly the hagfish is. This ancient 500-million-year-old, jawless, spineless, slime bomb-wielding thing. Is it a vertebrate that lost its spine? Is it a pre-vertebrate? A creature from a lineage before spines were even invented? It is, essentially, our most distant, most alien, and most profoundly creepy living relative. It is a look at the nightmare path that our own jawboned, spine-having, non-slime-bombing lineage didn't take. The hagfish is the undertaker, the spineless, slime-bombing, knot-tying scavenger of the abyss. But the deep, dark mud has another ancient model. And where the hagfish is a vulture, this one is a vampire. You are looking at the other false eel, the lamprey. This one, at least, is a vertebrate. It has a spine, though it's a very primitive one, made of cartilage. Like the hagfish, it's ancient, jawless, and belongs to that 500-million-year-old cyclostome, or circlemouth, family. But the lamprey has taken its jawless design and turned it into a far more active and far more personal kind of horror. Its creepy adaptation is, again, its mouth. But this is not the rasping beak of the hagfish. The lamprey's face is a weapon. You look at it. It is a perfect, fleshy, circular sucker disc, like a plunger. And the inside of that disc is a swirling, psychedelic, M.C. Escher-esque nightmare of teeth. It is lined with hundreds of razor-sharp, black, backward-pointing, horn-like teeth. And in the center of that swirling vortex of teeth, there is a tongue, a thick, muscular, rasping tongue, which is also covered in teeth. This is not a mouth for eating. This is a mouth for attaching and drilling. The lamprey is a parasite. This is our scientific evidence. Its entire life is built around this single, horrifying biological tool. It is a hematophagous feeder, which is a very polite $10 word for a blood drinker. It doesn't hunt, and it doesn't scavenge. It attaches. You watch it. It finds a host, a large deep-sea fish, or, in its freshwater-dwelling cousins, a salmon or a trout. It swims up, presses that sucker disc against the fish's side, and sucks. The vacuum created by the disc anchors it in place. Then the work begins. The hundreds of tiny razor-sharp teeth dig in, getting a purchase on the scales. And then the central tooth-covered tongue starts to rasp. Back and forth, it is drilling a hole. Right through the scales, right through the skin, right into the living muscle of its host. Once the hole is open and the blood starts to flow, the lamprey drinks. It latches on, and it just hangs there. A living, external, blood-sucking organ attached to the side of the larger fish, just feeding. It secretes an anticoagulant from its salivary glands to keep the blood flowing freely. It will stay attached, feeding like this, for days or weeks until it is full, or until the host fish, weakened and anemic, finally dies. This is our quirky tidbit. While most lampreys are specialists, they are opportunists. And there are numerous deeply unsettling reports, both historical and modern, of lampreys attacking human swimmers. It's rare, but in freshwater lakes where they've become an invasive species, swimmers have, in a panic, felt this thing latch onto their leg or their side. They've reached down and felt this slimy, eel-like creature, and when they've ripped it off, they've been left with that perfect, circular bullseye of bloody rasp marks. It's an attack from a 500-million-year-old monster. And yet, for all this, we have eaten them for centuries. This is our mainstream historical fact, and one of the most famous and grossest deaths in the medieval world, lampreys, because they are so rich, oily, and boneless, with only that soft cartilage spine, were considered an absolute delicacy by royalty. And King Henry I of England, in 1135, well, he loved them. He loved them so much, in fact, that his doctors forbade him from eating them, as they were just too rich for his system. The king, of course, did what he wanted. He was in France, he was hungry, and he ordered a massive surfeit of lampreys. He ate so many of them at one sitting that, according to the chroniclers, he was struck with a violent, bloody, feverish, and fatal illness, likely a massive case of food poisoning, and died. He was, in effect, killed by a plate of vampires. This is the great scholarly debate that these jawless fish force us to have with us. The hagfish and the lamprey, the scavenger and the parasite. They are not eels. They are us. Or rather, they are the alternative to us. They are our own, most distant, most ancient living relatives. We, the jawed vertebrates, share a common 500-million-year-old ancestor with these things. They represent a nightmare path that our own lineage, which would lead to dinosaurs, to birds, to us, thankfully, didn't take. They are a living, slimy, blood-sucking, knot-tying look at our own most distant and most creepy family reunion. We've now seen the hagfish and the lamprey, those ancient, jawless, 500-million-year-old nightmares. They are the false eels, the terrifying cousins. But let's return to our true eels. Let's go back to the abyss. You are a Gulper Eel, 4 miles down. You are a masterpiece of minimalist, pea-brained design. You are hanging, motionless, in the 11,000 psi, near-freezing, absolute dark. And you have just, finally, had a meal. A small, stupid bristlemouth, lured in by your tail light, has been gulped. It is a moment of profound, rare, caloric triumph. You will now spend the next 6 months digesting this. And in that time, a new, ancient, and non-negotiable biological program begins to run on your tiny, pea-sized brain. The hunger is, briefly, gone. A new and far more difficult imperative takes over. Reproduce. Now, you have a problem. A problem so vast, so profound, that it makes finding food look like a simple, fun afternoon hobby. You are a single eel in a 3-dimensional liquid desert. That is millions of square miles in size, and it is pitch black. And you are, by design, slow and low energy, and you must find another single eel. This is the mate-finding problem. It is perhaps the single greatest logistical challenge in all of biology. The emptiness is staggering. The darkness is total. The distances are quite literally oceanic. How do you find a single tiny black needle in a planet-sized black haystack? You can't see. Your eyes are useless, buried specks. You can't shout. Sound is complicated. You could flash your tail light, and this is a major scholarly debate. Are those complex pink and red bioluminescent tail lures also a mating call? Are you perhaps flashing a secret, species-specific Morse code? Ready to mate? Gulper Eel, female? Into the void, hoping for a flash in return? It's possible. But light, in an ocean this vast, doesn't travel very far. No, you need a signal that lasts, a signal that can travel, a signal that can linger in the water, a trail of breadcrumbs that can be followed, not for minutes, but for miles. You need a smell. This is our scientific evidence. The true and most powerful solution to the mate-finding problem is chemistry. You, the female Gulper Eel, begin to release a pheromone. It is a tiny, complex, and incredibly potent molecule. A single drop of this chemical, released from your body, begins to plume out into the water, a silent, invisible, and utterly unmistakable "come hither" broadcast. It is a chemical "I'm here." It is a chemical "I'm ready." And now, somewhere in this same 10,000 square mile patch of freezing black desert, is a male Gulper Eel. And this is where his bizarre, minimalist, pea-brained design suddenly makes perfect sense. Remember those two giant sockets on the front of his face, the ones that aren't eyes? They are his olfactory organs. They are his nose. And they are enormous. They are hypersensitive, state-of-the-art chemical detection machines. This is our quirky tidbit. The male Gulper Eel's pea-sized brain is, in fact, not all pea-sized. The olfactory bulbs, the part of the brain that processes smell, are, relative to the rest of him, gigantic. He is, in effect, not a Gulper Eel at all. He is a swimming nose. He has sacrificed brains. He has sacrificed sight. He has sacrificed everything to become the universe's most perfect, most patient, and most desperate sniffer. His entire life is a slow, drifting, low-energy quest. He is not hunting for food. He barely eats. He is hunting for a single molecule. And then, one day, he gets one. A single molecule of your pheromone, which has drifted for 6 miles on the slow, abyssal current, finally bumps into one of his olfactory receptors. His tiny, pea-sized brain explodes. It's the only signal it was ever waiting for. And now, he begins to hunt. He is a bloodhound. He swims slowly up the chemical scent gradient, a trail that is, to us, totally invisible, but to him is a raging neon yellow superhighway pointing right at you. This is a new-ish idea. This is our mainstream historical fact. The entire concept of pheromones was a mystery to us for most of human history. The word itself was only coined in 1959. For all the centuries before that, the mate-finding problem was a total, absolute, magical black box. We had no idea how they did it. Aristotle, Pliny, Freud, they were all stuck on how do they breed. We at least have an answer. It's not magic. It's chemistry. The male Gulper swims patiently for a week, or 2, or a month, following that invisible chemical shout, until finally, in the total freezing, crushing 11,000 psi darkness, 4 miles down, in the middle of the most vast and empty desert on planet Earth, he finds you. 2 slow, weak, blind, pea-brained, gelatinous goo bags have found each other. It is perhaps the most statistically profound and most profoundly unromantic reunion in the history of life. But as with all things in the deep, this chemical smell solution, it's just one solution. And it's frankly a lot of work. It requires finding each other. What if you didn't have to find each other? What if you could solve this mate-finding problem permanently? The Gulper Eel's swimming nose solution is, you have to admit, a lot of work. It's an exhausting, month-long chemical treasure hunt. It's a solution that still relies on chance, on 2 slow, drifting goo bags hoping to find each other in a planet-sized void. The abyss, which is all about radical, low-energy efficiency, hates this. It hates hope. It hates chance. It's just too expensive. So another group of deep-sea fish, the ones that are truly masters of this dark, cold world, came up with a different and far more permanent solution. A solution that is efficient, logical, and by any human standard, the single most horrifying and creepy adaptation in the history of life. You know this creature. You've seen the drawings. You've feared it since you were a child. This is the anglerfish. You are looking at the female. She is the one you know. She is a basketball-sized, globular, monstrous thing. She is all fangs, all spikes, and all mouth. And of course, she has the lure. Dangling from her forehead is her esker, a long, fleshy fishing rod that, at its tip, has a complex, glowing, bioluminescent worm that she wiggles and flashes to draw in prey. She is, like the gulper, a sit-and-wait predator. She is a living, light-up trap. This is our mainstream historical fact. For a century, we only knew this version. Every anglerfish specimen ever dredged up, from the 1830s onward, was this big, spiky female monster. The male of the species was a complete, total mystery. We had never found one. Scientists were baffled. It was the eel question, all over again. How did they reproduce? Were they hermaphrodites, both male and female? And then, in the 1920s, an ichthyologist, Charles Tate Regan, was looking closer. He was examining one of these big, spiky female specimens, and he noticed something on her, a tiny, pathetic, parasite-looking thing stuck to her belly. He looked closer, and he realized this wasn't a parasite. It was a fish. A tiny, degenerate male anglerfish. And it was fused to her. This is our quirky tidbit, and the scientific evidence that defines this creature's life. This is the anglerfish solution to the mate-finding problem. The male anglerfish is tiny. He is, as the outline said, a fraction of her size. A 6-inch female might have a half-inch male attached. He is born only to find her. He has, like the gulper, a gigantic nose. He has no lure. He has, in fact, almost no digestive system. He is born, essentially, as a swimming nose with a pair of testes on a ticking clock. He must find a female, or he will starve to death in a matter of days. He swims frantically through the abyss, sniffing for her pheromone, that one unmistakable chemical shout. And then he finds her. He smells her. He swims up. He sees her, this giant, monstrous, beautiful home. He swims up, and he bites her. He bites her anywhere, on her side, on her belly, on her head. And he never, ever lets go. His teeth, which are specialized for this one moment, clamp down. And then a chemical reaction begins. His skin and her skin, at the point of the bite, begin to dissolve. His face and her body just melt into each other. This is sexual parasitism. His entire body begins to fuse with hers. His circulatory system, his blood vessels, reach out and connect with her blood vessels. They become one. And now he has her. He is part of her. And he can let go. He no longer needs himself. His eyes, which he used to find her, dissolve. His fins, which he used to swim to her, atrophy and fall off. His gut and digestive system, which are now totally redundant, dissolve. His brain, his heart, they all shrink down to the bare, minimum standby mode. The male anglerfish is gone. He has been deconstructed. He has willingly, autonomously turned himself into a pair of living attached testes. He is now just a lump, a small fleshy backpack hanging off her side for the rest of his life. He is a parasite. He draws all of his nutrients, his oxygen, his life directly from her blood. He is quite literally a part of her. And in return, he gives her one thing. When she is ready to spawn, when her eggs are mature, she releases a hormone into her blood. That hormone flows into his bloodstream, and his testes instantly release sperm. He has solved the mate-finding problem forever. He has solved his own food problem forever. This is the scholarly debate. Is this the ultimate adaptation for the abyss? Is this the most perfect, most efficient, and most logical endpoint for life in a world of total darkness and total emptiness? It's a single, horrifying, one-way transaction. He gives her his body, his autonomy, his entire identity, and in return, he gets to exist. It is the ultimate and most profoundly creepy biological minimalism. We've spent all this time in the abyss, and we've seen one consistent, logical rule. Get smaller. Get simpler. Get cheaper. The anglerfish male gives up his body to become a lump. The Gulper Eel gives up its brain to become a mouth. The one-jaw eel gives up its face to become a living needle. It seems the entire crushing evolutionary logic of the deep sea is deconstruct. Minimize. Use less. This is a clean, simple, and satisfying answer, and it is completely, totally wrong. Or at least, it's only half the story, because the abyss is a place of profound, almost malicious contradictions. It is a funhouse mirror. At the exact same time that the deep sea is busy miniaturizing the male anglerfish into a half-inch parasite, it is also taking other creatures and making them enormous. This is the other path, the get bigger path. This is the great, baffling, and glorious paradox of deep-sea gigantism. You know these legends. This is where the Kraken comes from. This is our mainstream historical fact. For centuries, sailors told stories of a monster of the deep, a creature so vast it could pull a whaling ship under. It was a myth, a drunken legend, until the 1870s. That's when massive, fresh specimens of the giant squid, Architeuthis, began washing ashore in Newfoundland. One, in 1878, was over 50 feet long from its fin to the tip of its tentacles. Its eyeball was the size of a human head. The legend was just a fact that lived in a place we couldn't go. And it's not just the squid. You find a roly-poly, a pill bug, a common fist-sized isopod from a shallow reef. But you find it here, in the abyss. And it's no longer fist-sized. It's the giant isopod, Bathynomus giganteus. It is a 2.5-foot-long, 4-pound, body armor-plated, cat-sized version of a roly-poly. It's a horror movie prop that is unfortunately real. And as we saw, our own eels have played this game. The conger eel, that 130-pound, 10-foot-long, thick fella from the Twilight Zone, is a perfect example. It didn't get simpler or smaller. It got bigger, stronger, and meaner. This is the great central scholarly debate of deep-sea biology. Why? Why is the abyss a funhouse mirror that stretches some creatures and shrinks others? Why does this single uniform environment, cold, dark, high pressure, produce such wildly opposite results? We have two main theories. First, there's the cold and slow hypothesis. This is our scientific evidence. You're in the abyss. The water is a single, non-negotiable degree above freezing. This extreme, leaching cold acts as a universal brake. It slows down every chemical reaction in your body. Your heart rate is glacial. Your digestion takes months. Your entire metabolism slows to a near stop. You are, in effect, a creature living in a state of permanent refrigerated low and slow. And because your metabolism is so slow, you age. Very, very slowly. A deep-sea rough-eye rockfish can live for 200 years. A Greenland shark, which lives in this same cold, deep water, can live for 400 years. And here is the kicker. Most of these creatures, fish, isopods, squid, have indeterminate growth. They don't have a growth spurt that stops like we do. They just keep growing for their entire lives. So you do the math. An impossibly slow metabolism, plus an impossibly long lifespan, plus never stop growing. And the result, 400 years later, is a giant. The gigantism isn't an adaptation. In this theory, it's just a side effect of a very, very, very long, cold, and boring life. Then there's theory number 2, the famine and feast hypothesis. This theory says the gigantism is a strategy, a survival strategy for a world of booms and busts. 99.9% of the time, the abyss is a desert. This is the famine. But sometimes a 60-ton whale dies on the surface and its carcass falls. This is the feast, a 50-year supply of food delivered all at once. Now, who wins that lottery? The tiny creature? It can eat a few bites, but it's full in an hour. Or the giant creature? A 2-foot-long giant isopod can crawl onto that whale carcass, and it can gorge. It can fill its body with so much rotting blubber that its own heavy armored plates are squeezed apart. It can eat so much that it is physically incapable of walking away. And this is our quirky tidbit. It can then store that single grotesque Thanksgiving meal and live on it. For years. We have, in our labs, kept giant isopods, which have gorged once in tanks, and they have lived for 5 years, with no more food. They are a living armored refrigerator. So, being huge is a survival strategy. You can eat more of the feast, and you have a bigger body to store that feast, allowing you to survive the decade-long famine until the next whale falls from the sky. The eel lineage, it seems, just couldn't make up its mind on this great debate. It split. Some, like the conger, took this famine and feast path, and they went for gigantism. The others, the gulper, the snipe, the one-jaw, they took the other path. The get cheap, get weird path. The path of minimalism. 2 wildly different and equally creepy solutions to the same single, cold, dark problem. So you are drifting in that endless cold dark. You are, perhaps, a sawtooth eel, a living snarl. Or you are a giant isopod, that armored cat-sized pill bug. And you are in the famine. You are always in the famine. For 10, 20, maybe 50 years, you have survived on nothing. You have eaten only the crumbs, the microscopic, nutritionally bankrupt, fecal pellets that have somehow, against all odds, made the 4-mile journey from the surface without being eaten. You are a creature of pure, cold, patient, and profound hunger. And then it happens. It's not a light. It's not a sound. It's a smell. A smell you are feeling with your entire body, with your hypersensitive lateral line and your giant olfactory nose. It's a plume of chemicals. It is the complex, unmistakable, and glorious scent of decay. A lot of decay. An impossible amount of it. It is the smell of oil, of fat, of rot. It is the single most beautiful, most important signal in the entire abyss. It is the dinner bell. The feast has arrived. You turn your slow, low-energy body, and you begin to swim up current, following that invisible chemical river. And then you see it. Or rather, you feel it. A mountain that was not there yesterday. This is our scientific evidence. A 60-ton blue whale, a creature of the sunlit upper world, has died. Its massive, blubber-rich body has, for 2 weeks, been sinking a slow, 4-mile-long funeral procession, descending through the twilight zone, past the midnight zone, and finally crashing onto the soft, muddy, bottomless floor of the abyss. This is a whale fall, and it is the single greatest, most important event in the deep sea. It is a bonanza of food. A single large whale carcass falling into the abyss is a caloric jackpot that is the biological equivalent of 10,000 years of normal background marine snow. It is a century's worth of calories delivered all at once in a single, convenient, 60-foot-long rotting package. You are the first responder, and you are not alone. From miles around, from every direction, the famine and feast creatures are homing in on that glorious oily plume. You see them emerging from the dark, cold mud. It's a rogues gallery of the deep. The hagfish, remember them? The 500-million-year-old spineless, purple, slime-bombing undertakers. They arrive in a mass, a writhing, knotting, restless carpet of slime tubes, and they immediately get to work, rasping their way inside the whale's body, burrowing in to eat the soft, rich organs from the inside out. You see the sleeper sharks, giant, 20-foot-long, 400-year-old living fossil sharks, their eyes covered in glowing parasitic copepods, their movements slow and ghostly as they clamp their massive jaws onto the blubber and twist, ripping away 50-pound chunks. You see our eels. The saw-tooth eels, the permanent snarls, are here. Their saw-like jaws perfect for ripping and tearing at the flesh. And you see the giant isopods, those armored, cat-sized vultures, crawling all over the carcass, gorging themselves, stuffing their bodies so full of rotting fat that their own armored plates are squeezed apart. This is stage 1, the scavengers. It is a silent, cold, and grotesque feeding frenzy that will last for months, or even a few years, until the carcass is peeled, completely down to the bone. This is our mainstream historical fact. We didn't even know these dark oases existed until 1987. The deep-sea submersible Alvin, the same one that found the Titanic, was on a routine, boring, mud survey off the coast of California, when its headlights just stumbled upon a whale skeleton on the seafloor. The scientists on board expected it to be dead, a sterile calcium graveyard. Instead, it was LMT. It was covered in a bizarre, dense, living carpet of creatures they had never seen before. It was an entire, thriving, self-contained ecosystem, built on a single, dead animal. It was a discovery that, once again, shattered our understanding of the deep. And this is where stage 2 begins. The flesh is gone. Now there is only bone. A normal creature, even a hagfish, can't do anything with bone. But the abyss is not normal. Now the real specialists arrive. This is our quirky tidbit. You look closer at the bare, white bones. They are covered in a strange, reddish fuzz. It looks like a plant, a tiny, flower-like shag carpet growing all over the skeleton. This is Osidax, the zombie worm, the bone-eating snot flower. This is one of the most bizarre creatures on the planet. The little red flower plumes, you see? Those are just the gills of the female worms, because this animal has no mouth, it has no stomach, it has no gut. It cannot eat. Instead, it has roots. It secretes a powerful flesh-dissolving acid from its skin. This acid drills a hole, dissolving the solid, rock-hard bone itself. The worm then grows these root-like structures down into the bone, deep into the bone's matrix. And these roots absorb the tiny, fatty lipids, the oils, that are trapped inside. It is, quite literally, eating the bones from the inside out. And the males? The males are microscopic. They are essentially just sperm packets, and they live inside the female's gelatinous, flower-like tube. This single rotting skeleton, being slowly dissolved by acid-drilling, gutless zombie worms, will support this entire, bizarre, specialist community for 50 to 100 years. This is the scholarly debate that rages now. How? How does this work? How do the first responders, the sharks and hagfish, find this whale fall, which is a random event in millions of square miles of blackness, so quickly? Sometimes in a matter of days. And even weirder, how do the zombie worms, how do their tiny, floating, microscopic larvae know how to find the next whale fall, which might be 50 miles away? And 30 years in the future? We don't know. The logistics of this whale fall network are a massive, unsolved, and haunting puzzle. This is the true life of the deep. It is not a slow, steady life. It is 99.9% nothing. It is endless, cold, dark, patient waiting, punctuated by these rare, sudden, grotesque, century-long. It is a life spent waiting for the sky to fall, and for the lucky, hungry few, it does. And now, your journey in the abyss, in that cold, patient dark, is over. We are leaving. We are ascending. The whale fall, with its zombie worms, is fading back into the mud. The gulper, that living mouth, is just a distant, winking, pinkish light. We are rising. We have to. Because this is the final problem. It's the one that underpins this entire story. You've heard me say over and over that these creatures are mysterious, that they are so rare, that Neocyema was only described in 2018, that the one jaw is unbelievably rare, that we don't fully know how they live. Why in the 21st century, in an age of satellites and gene sequencing, is the largest habitat on our planet. Still, a black box? It's not just that it's dark. It's not just that it's deep. It's because of a single brutal and non-negotiable law of physics. It's because we cannot bring them up. They are mysterious because they explode. Let's go back to that beautiful, elegant survival system we just learned. The gelatinous body, the pea-sized, the goo creature that is 95% water, the creature that has achieved perfect equilibrium. You are a Gulper Eel, 4 miles down. The abyss is pressing in on you with 6,000 pounds of pressure, and your cells, your TMAO-packed watery gelatinous cells, are pushing out with 6,000 pounds of pressure. The net force is 0. You are a perfect, balanced, low-energy, pressure-proof Zen master. And now we have caught you. You are in a net, and we, the surface dwellers, are hauling you up. You begin to rise. You pass 13,000 feet. You pass 10,000 feet. You are rising fast. The world outside of you is changing. The pressure is dropping. The 6,000 psi monster is letting go. It's 4,000 psi, 3,000, 1,000. But your body is still an abyss machine. It is still a 6,000 psi creature. Your cells, your TMAO, your entire structure is still pushing out. And now, there is nothing pushing back. You are a creature built to withstand an impossible, crushing force, and we have just suddenly taken that force away. This is barotrauma. This is our scientific evidence. But it's not the bends that a scuba diver gets. This is a total structural catastrophic failure. The tiny, dissolved, harmless bubbles of gas in your blood and your tissues, the gases that were kept in a harmless liquid state by the 6,000 psi of the abyss, they are no longer held in check. As the video said, they expand so rapidly, your entire body becomes a bomb. Your insides boil, not from heat, but from a lack of pressure. The video was right. Your stomach balloons outwards, inflating, and it is pushed violently out of your own mouth. Your eyes bulge, or rather, the useless vestigial specks of your eyes are just squeezed out of your skull. Your organs rupture. Your gelatinous body, that beautiful, low-cost, pressure-proof armor, it just bursts. You do not arrive on the surface as an eel. You do not arrive as a specimen. You arrive as an event. This is our mainstream historical fact. This is the story of the Challenger expedition. This is the great, defining, maddening frustration of all 19th century deep-sea biology. The scientists on those ships knew there was life down there, but every time they hauled their deep trawl nets up, from 10, 15, 20,000 feet, they were not pulling up animals. They were pulling up monsters. They were pulling up, as the video so perfectly, colorfully, and disgustingly put it, a leaking sack of black goo with teeth. This is our quirky tidbit. Imagine you are that scientist. You are a 19th century God-fearing naturalist. You are on a wooden ship in the middle of a storm, and you have just hauled up a bag of burst organs with a fang in it. You have just found a stomach that has exploded, and it's the size of a man. You don't know about barotrauma. You don't know about TMAO. You just know that you have found a monster. You have hauled up proof of hell. This is the scholarly debate that still haunts our textbooks. How many of the monsters we think we know are just wrong? How many of our scientific drawings, of our reconstructions, are just accident reports? We drew the Gulper Eel, with that impossible cartoonish mouth, because by the time it got to us, its stomach had exploded out, making its mouth look even more disproportionate. We thought the black swallower had burst from greed, when in fact it may have just been caught, and its gassy, decomposing last meal expanded, just like our own bodies would. We are surface dwellers, surface machines. We are low-pressure creatures, and we are trying to study high-pressure creatures. We are, in effect, trying to study aliens, and the problem is, these aliens combust on contact with our world. They are creatures of pressure. Our no-pressure world is as toxic and explosive to them as their 11,000 psi world is crushing to us. The great mystery of the deep isn't just that it's hard to find the eels. The great mystery is that they are impossible to get. So we have a problem. A fundamental 6,000 psi exploding goo problem. If we can't bring the abyss up to us, then we have only one other insane and impossibly expensive option. We have to go down to it. We have to build a bubble. We have to build our own tiny, one-atmosphere, low-pressure world. A life raft made of 10-inch thick steel or titanium, and we have to ride it down into the monster's living room. Our ability to actually meet these eels, to see them as they are, not as a leaking sack of goo, but as living, drifting, hunting animals, is brand new. For 99.9% of human history, the abyss was, quite literally, mythology. This is our mainstream historical fact. The first humans to ever see the deep sea with their own eyes were two men, William Beebe and Otis Barton, in the 1930s. They weren't in a submersible. They were in a bathysphere. It was essentially a 5,000-pound cast-iron cannonball with 3 6-inch thick quartz windows and a telephone line to the surface. They were just dropped, dangling on a steel cable, into the dark. They had no control. They had no thrusters. They were just looking out a window. And what they saw, it broke our understanding of the world. They were the first humans to ever see the bioluminescent galaxy. They were the first to see the living light of the deep sea. When they were hauled back up, half suffocated, their descriptions of the creatures, of 6-foot-long, ribbon-like, pale green eels, of fish with flashing lights like a constellation, were so bizarre, so impossible, that this is our quirky tidbit. Other serious scientists on the surface accused them of hallucinating. They claimed the two men were suffering from nitrogen narcosis, or, to put it more simply, that they were drunk on their own, compressed, bad air. Their descriptions were too monstrous, too alien, too weird to be real. They were dismissed as fantasists, but they were right. They were just the first to see. That cannonball on a string was the great-grandfather of our modern deep-sea submersibles, like the famous Alvin, which found the Titanic, or the Johnson Sea Link. And even more importantly, it led to our real eyes in the deep, the ROVs, the remotely operated vehicles. This is our scientific evidence. This is the game changer. These are the billion-dollar, high-tech, robotic drones, the size of a small car that we tether to a ship and fly, very, very slowly, through the abyss, all from the comfort of a control room on the surface. That footage, the footage you saw in the video at the start of this journey, the clip of the Gulper Eel drifting, the shot of the snipe eel hanging in the water, that is not zoo footage. That is not aquarium footage. That is ROV footage. That is, quite literally, precious seconds of video, captured by a robot, 4 miles down, at a cost of millions of dollars, on a high-tech safari, after weeks of just looking at blackness. That footage is one of the rarest and most valuable pieces of evidence on planet Earth. It is our only window into their world. And this is the great, final human paradox. We are, right now, finally in the golden age of deep-sea discovery. We are finally meeting these creatures on their own terms. We are at long last beginning to understand this cold, dark, high-pressure world. And we are doing it. At the exact same moment, we are beginning to destroy it. This is the great and most terrifying scholarly debate of our time. We are exploring this last frontier, but we are also invading it. Deep-sea trawling, the practice of dragging a net the size of a football stadium, weighted down with giant steel doors across the seafloor, is already happening. It is scraping these 500-year-old whale fall communities, these delicate zombie worm gardens, off the map, turning the deep-sea floor into a barren plowed field. And next is abyssal mining. The deep, dark, abyssal mud is, by a cruel twist of geology, rich in the rare earth minerals we need for our cell phones. And the companies are already lined up. The machines are already built. So the great, final, human question is, who are we? Are we the explorers, the brave, new, Alvin-driving, ROV piloting scientists finally meeting these creatures? Or are we just the new monster, the final monster, a creature so greedy and so hungry that it will travel 4 miles down into a cold, dark, 11,000 PSY hell, just to eat the mud, and in the process erase a world we never even got to know? And so, we are back. Back at the surface, floating in the warm, moonlit water of the Sargasso Sea, where this whole strange, circular story began. We have made the journey. We have descended from this world of sunlight, from the normal, and already monstrous, two-jawed Moray Eel, down through the twilight zone, where the conger lost its color and gained its goggle eyes, down into the midnight zone, where the sawtooth and the snipe traded their eyes for distance touch, and then, finally, down into that 4-mile-deep, 11,000 PSY, crushing, freezing, black hell. And we found the gulper, the swallower, and the one jaw. We are at last ready to answer the question from the very beginning. The question of the video's title. Why do eels get creepier the deeper you go? We have the answer now, and it's the most important and most profound secret of the deep. The creepiness. It's not an addition. We, as surface dwellers, as land monkeys, we are used to evolution, meaning more. More speed, more strength, more spikes, more teeth, more brain power. The abyss is the opposite. The abyss is not a place of addition. It is a place of subtraction. The video was right. The key, the final meaning, is minimalism. Creepiness is not a presence. It is an absence. It is what we as complete creatures feel when we see something that has been deconstructed. The deep sea is a sculptor. But it is not a kind, romantic sculptor, adding clay, building up a form. It is a brutalist. It is a deconstructor. It works only with a chisel, and its one and only tool is energy. This is our scientific evidence. The fundamental law of the deep is caloric cost. The abyss is a world of permanent, generational famine. And in this world, every single thing you are has a price. Your color, your beautiful, complex snowflake pattern, that costs calories to produce the pigment. Your eyes, those giant, beautiful goggle eyes, they are the single most calorically expensive organ in your body, a hot spot of blood, nerves, and energy. Your brain, that pea-sized thing, even that is a luxury, a power suck in a world with no power. Your muscles, your bones, your gills, cost, cost, cost. And so the sculptor, the 11,000 psi, near-freezing, no-food famine, begins to chisel. You watch it work. First, it chisels away color. The patterns are the first to go. A waste. Gone. Then, it chisels away bone. Replaces it with that low-cost jelly, cartilage, and water body. Then, it chisels away muscle. The fast, strong fighter body of the conger is a liability. It's too expensive to feed. It is replaced by the low and slow goo bag body of the gulper. Then, it chisels away sight. The eyes, those beautiful, useless, expensive orbs, are next. They are reduced, buried, and erased. Then, it chisels away thought. The brain itself. It is shrunk, minimized, downsized to a single pea-sized function. Drift, lure, gulp. And then, in a final, grotesque and masterful act of cost-saving, it chisels away the face. The skull, the one jaw, is the masterpiece. It is an animal that has evolved away its own head, because a full skull was just too expensive. This is our mainstream historical fact. When 19th century naturalists like Edward Forbes first proposed the azoic hypothesis, the mainstream idea that no life could possibly exist below 1,800 feet, they were doing it from a place of logic. They knew instinctively that the cost was too high. And this is our quirky tidbit. When those Challenger nets did pull up these monsters, the Victorian scientists on board didn't call them minimalist. They called them degenerate. It was a moral Victorian judgment. They believed these creatures were advanced life, like eels, that had fallen, that had lost their complexity, that had devolved. They were, in a twisted, judgmental 19th century way, 100% correct. This is the great, ongoing scholarly debate. Is this minimalism, this degenerate path, the only true evolutionary endpoint for life in the deep? When you remove all the variables, the light, the heat, the food, do all roads, given enough millions of years, lead to a one jaw or a parasitic male anglerfish? That is the final, chilling creepiness of the deep. The monsters we've seen, they are not monsters at all. They are not mistakes. They are not freaks. They are the ultimate survivors. They are the final product. They are the perfect, logical end game of life. They are what you get when you win. They are what you get when the chisel stops. The journey is over. You are here. You are floating, back where we started, in the warm, moonlit, and impossibly calm water of the Sargasso Sea. You are back on the surface, the air is warm, the water is soft. The pressure is a gentle, one atmosphere, comforting blanket. It's a profound and welcome relief. But you know now, what is down? You know that 20,000 feet, 4 miles straight below where you are floating, the abyss is still there. It is always there. That cold, black, 11,000 psi, bottomless desert. And right now, in that darkness, a Gulper Eel is still drifting, its pea-sized brain running its lure gulp program. A sawtooth eel is still a living, cannibalistic snarl, and a monognathus, a faceless, venom-injecting survivor, is still waiting, patiently, in a world that has chiseled it down to a single, perfect, terrifying function. And at the same time, here, in this warm, sunlit sargassum mat, the babies are here. The leptocephalus, the transparent glass leaf ghost babies are still being born, just as they have been for 100 million years. And this is the final, and perhaps the creepiest realization of all. They are the same thing. The creepy creature down there, and the creepy creature up here, they are one. The transparent, gelatinous, alien lava leptocephalus that you saw. It is the same biological blueprint. It is the key. It is the goo creature starting point. This is our quirky tidbit. That one alien baby form, the glass leaf, is the common link. It is the secret that ties the entire sprawling, monstrous family together. A leptocephalus will drift for 3 years, and it might become the normal freshwater anguilla eel, the one that lives in a muddy pond, and that, our mainstream fact callback, so baffled Aristotle he had to invent spontaneous generation. Or that exact same larva, from that exact same spawning, will drift, and it will become the pretty, two-jawed, alien Moray Eel, a monster hiding in a tropical sunlit reef. Or it will drift and settle deeper, and it will become the snipe eel, the threadfish, with the unclosing tweezer jaws. Or it will drift and settle even deeper, and it will become the gulper. The eel, it turns out, is creepy at every depth. It is not a journey into creepiness. It is creepiness all the way down. Its life story is a perfect, closed, and terrifying circle. It begins in a mystery, the Sargasso Sea, where no one has ever seen them spawn. It descends into a nightmare of radical, minimalist specialization, the abyss, where they are chiseled into living tools. And it ends in a mystery, the silver eels that swim 4,000 miles, never eating, to return to the Sargasso, to breed and to vanish. Perhaps the final, unsettling thought is not that this is a deep sea story. It's that this is a one ocean story. This is our scientific evidence. It's all connected. We, with our land-based map-drawing brains, we love to draw lines. This is the epipelagic zone. This is the abyss. The ocean doesn't care. It has no lines. The whale that eats in the sunlight of the epipelagic is the exact same whale that dies and falls and becomes the 100-year feast that feeds the hagfish and the zombie worms in the abyss. The nutrients from that rotting whale will finally be released decades later and will be carried by the ocean's great conveyor belt, the thermohaline current, for 1,000 years, until they finally surface, to feed the plankton that are eaten by the krill, that are eaten by the next whale. It is one single, dark, interconnected story. And we, the surface dwellers, we thought we were just watching. We thought we were outside of it, a visitor in a submarine. But as we learned with our deep-sea trawling and our abyssal mining for our cell phones, we are not visitors. We are not outside. This is the final scholarly debate. We are part of this story. We are just the newest and fastest and hungriest monster. A monster that is so hungry, it is eating the deepest, darkest part of the circle, before it even understands that it is eating itself. And now you can just let that story go. You can feel the gentle, warm surface water around you, so different from the cold, heavy, crushing dark of the abyss. The pressure is gone. There is only the soft pull of gravity, holding you comfortably in your bed. All those strange shapes, the ribbon-like jaw of the snipe eel, the endless ballooning mouth of the gulper, the single terrifying jaw of the monognathus, you can let them all just dissolve, fading back into the blackness that made them. They are perfectly suited for their world, and you are perfectly suited for yours. They are drifting miles below in an endless, slow, cold night, and you are here, safe and warm, in the darkness of your own room, which is not empty, but full of soft air and familiar sounds. You can just float. There is nothing to hunt, nothing to flee from. There is only this moment, this quiet, this comfortable drifting, sleepy feeling. Let the last of the images, the glowing lure, the transparent leafy baby, just fade away. They are just stories, and the story is over now. It's time to just rest.